All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. So hope you're all having a great Sunday, a great weekend here. Thanks so much for stopping by and joining in here. So like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. We're going to give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They get that priority answering. If you would also like that priority answering, there's always a join button there. Various places on the channel page, video page here, a link in the description as well. And so we have a bunch of people that have joined in here. So let me see. We have Good Stick, Brian, Grand, Cars, Danny, Wheatman. I see Danny. Hopefully you get a gifted membership here this week. We'll see, but I'll try and keep an eye out for you, Danny, as well. You're an honorary member, I think, at this point. But B. Mitchell, Truck and Car Guy, Luke, Raphael, Antonio, happy to see you here as well, man. Good Stick, and yeah, we already said that one. So, all right, so yeah, and Austin, Truck and Car Guy, everyone just keeps on coming in here. Kevin, Decepticon Stinger, Stratus Edge, Kyle, thanks so much, everyone. Dom, Michelle. So anyway, getting into the questions here. Good Stick has the first question, which I know is the hot topic here this week. Thoughts on the Jaguar ad? So I will say that I haven't watched other commentaries online about this. I did already talk also in my weekly update a little bit about my thoughts on the branding and on the new teaser images and stuff, but I didn't specifically talk about the ad because honestly, to me, the ad wasn't worth talking about. Honestly, like to me, it wasn't this big, huge, controversial thing like it was for so many others. And I know there's a variety of reasons people can pick and choose for why they didn't like it. But, I think now seeing that everyone had reactions about it, I think what I can say is the ad is absolutely a success because we're all talking about it. It's a success because it elicited a response. That's what it was designed to do. That ad was not designed to sell cars. There's no car in the picture, and that's deliberate because it's building hype. Because if they did no press and then, this car dropped in Miami on December 2nd, and us enthusiasts, we know about it, but they already knew that we were going to be following this. We already are interested in it. And so that is, a given for them. So this was designed to, put Jaguar back on the map and start getting people's attention and get everyone primed for when this car does come out. And make the biggest splash possible. And from a marketing standpoint, the marketing team killed it. They absolutely killed it because it got everyone talking. Just like any other Super Bowl ad, any other big budget ad, some of them go for cheesy jokes or whatever to, if they want to play it safe. But the ones that really want you to, talk about it, they're not playing it safe. It's not some feel-good ad. It's going to be something that's bold and different and shocking. And that's exactly what that ad did. It's like, well, what is this about? This is confusing. Why, what does this have to do with Jaguar? And that's exactly, I think, the point. The point is it's not going to have any heritage ties. It's not going to have anything that we've seen before. And I think they're going to be fine. I think even if the branding's weird, and even if the marketing, if you don't like the commercials, the car looks badass. It looks super cool. I mean, we saw it just in camo, super long hood, blocky front end that looks like it's off a Rolls Royce, really blocky. It looks like something out of like the Batman animated series or some crazy thing like that to me. I mean, obviously, again, it's going to be an EV. Most likely, maybe they'll surprise us like Scout did and have some kind of range extender thing or some kind of, audible that they have called at the last minute because they realize maybe they can't survive as just an EV only brand. I don't know. But, I think that it's going to be awesome. And, as many of you know, I am a fan of Jaguar, but I at least want to hear them out. I want to see the car. I want to, see what ends up coming out of this, and not just some people are saying, oh, the entire brand, I've given up hope after seeing one 15-second ad or something that's clearly artsy, that's clearly supposed to be over the top. That's it's not a serious ad. So yeah, that was just kind of strange to see all this backlash when I watched it, and it literally like went in one ear and out the other from a like visual standpoint of just being like, oh, okay, that's they're trying to be bold and different, just like the branding is bold and different. Everyone's being like, oh, this is weird with the font. This is weird with, the teasers, everything is supposed to be mysterious and weird deliberately, because again, so I'll move off this rant soon, but Jaguar has proven that the heritage thing doesn't work for them. It sold cars for a little while, and they had some edgy stuff before. My favorite marketing campaign from Jaguar was when the F-Type first came out, and in the years following that, their whole thing was "it's good to be bad," and they hired all these villains, British villains, and had them driving the cars and all that. It was an awesome ad, and it tried to make them a little edgier, and even that wasn't far enough. Even that, sure, F-Type did okay, but Jaguar's in the position they're in now because of that, because of the heritage, because they made really good cars that were good looking, in my opinion, that were really fun to drive from everyone that I've driven. The quality is the thing I think kind of hurt them a lot, in the fact that they just weren't the usual top 3 luxury brands that everyone always wants for their badge bragging rights. And so, if Jaguar had continued with classy, sophisticated, British, pipe smoking, well manicured hair, old white guy kind of appearance, like that's not going to sell cars. They would have just continued their decline, and there would have been no reason to do the rebrand. The rebrand was supposed to be bold and daring, and that marketing fits that perfectly, in my opinion. So that's my 2 cents on the Jaguar thing. I'm happy to do follow up if people want to discuss more, but I spent about 5 minutes here on that, so hopefully that's enough, and I didn't piss too many people off with my thoughts. But that's my take on the Jaguar ad, and and we will move on. But great question, good stick, because again, I know that everyone was probably interested in that. But let me see. Danny says, hello, everyone, and Matt. I drove in the rain on Friday with my permit. Kind of scary. Spots of the week in New Jersey, first-gen Honda Accord Hybrid and a 1988 Chevy Sprint. Nice, that's cool. I actually saw a Grand Prix, like one of the last years when they kind of did the smoothed over, kind of wide body ish, kind of look to them, and that was a fun little thing I just saw today. But yeah, great there, and also, as far as driving in the rain, that's something. Obviously, good tires really help. Having a car that's pretty stable helps. But that's also something you just kind of have to learn, and you will learn. You'll get comfortable in the rain. It's definitely, a scary thing. First time driving in the snow is going to be scary as well. But once you kind of get the hang of it, especially if you have the luxury of going into an abandoned parking lot or taking a winter driving course, if you are, fortunate enough to do something like that. I mean, those types of things really give you a lot of confidence of like, yeah, I am sliding, but that's okay. And you can control it and have that confidence to work through that, situation. And so all just comes with experience as well. But you got it, Danny. Keep on going and keep on learning. You'll do fine. And Wheatman says, happy early Thanksgiving, everyone. I agree. Hope everyone has a great holiday week here. And Cara says, last week I saw a first-gen Geo Tracker and had a nice chat with the owner. She's planning to give it to her son and said that everywhere she goes, there are people who want to buy it. Pretty cool car. That's awesome. And that's cool. She hung on to it for so long, too. That's impressive. That's quite the spot. I haven't seen a Tracker in a long time, so it's a cool one, Cars. Thanks for sharing. B. Mitchell says Jaguar is Sir William Lyons hit the 6,000 RPM red light in his grave. Maybe, who knows? Trent Car Guy says greetings as well. Thanks for stopping by. Luke says, this Thanksgiving season, I am thankful for these live streams and how they stay non-toxic. I agree, and that's how I want to keep them for sure. And I'm sure a lot of us will probably hear some toxic talk, from family and others over the Thanksgiving time here. So happy to just have a fun car chat here tonight. I see also, thank you, Brian and Shane, for the gifts there. Really appreciate those. Happy to see a couple people able to grab those there, and we'll keep our fingers crossed again for Danny tonight. And let me see here, other questions. Raphael says, hello all, finally back on the stream after a couple of weeks traveling for work. Hope the travels were good. And thanks for stopping by, Raphael. Hope you're doing well. And let me see. Antonio says he's been busy as well. I totally get it. Good Stick says, I just had a power outage for 4 days. We had a bomb cyclone hit Bellevue, Washington. I was at my house and the tree fell and broke my fence and went straight through my neighbor's house. Luckily, no one was in the bedroom, as that person would have been dead. Man, that is crazy. Well, sorry to hear about, man. I I can't imagine just 4 days without power, but then, yeah, to have that scary brush with, what would have been probably death is, yeah, crazy. I mean, as many of you know, I had that tree that fell on me, as I was driving through a park several years ago. And it's another thing where like that tree came an inch away from bashing my head in. And so, yeah, that's crazy, but glad you got your power back. Sorry to hear about the crazy storm though. That is, I hadn't heard about that. I feel like that's something that would have been reported in the news. That's nuts. But glad you're doing well and enjoy the electricity again. Crazy. And let me see. Trunk Car Guy says, so I went to the Donut Media event at Tucson Dragway yesterday and had a blast. That dude in blue was there too. Awesome. That's cool. I didn't even hear about that going on. I don't really follow Donut much, but that sounds like it was a good time. That's awesome. And I see we have Brian gifted another membership. So thank you so much for that as well. I really appreciate that, Brian. And I see another person able to get that there. And I think it's another new face. So that's awesome. Thanks again for the generosity. And let me see here. Decepticon says the Matt Moran himself. Yeah, it's little old me here. And Kyle, happy to see you back as well. I know I think missed last week. Happy to see you back here. Hope you're doing well, Kyle, and everyone else too, Jack and Joe and Dom. Vishal says, how's it going, Matt? May or may not be replacing our 21 HL with something else eventually. It has me thinking Pilot, MDX, and TX would be my contenders. How's the space of these compared to regular Highlander? So for those three, that's interesting. So, because you're mentioning Pilot, so I'm guessing there's some interesting stuff, because the other two obviously are luxury. But as far as how the space compares to regular Highlander, so 21 would be current gen Highlander, right? So that means Pilot's going to be a little bit bigger. They're all going to be improvements for sure. I think MDX will be probably the smallest space improvement. Pilot will be slightly more, and then TX will be the absolute winner from a space standpoint. TX and Grand Highlander, giant, massive. And because of that, I think are actually probably the best executed in their segments. Because that's what people want. They just want a ton of space. That's why you're buying a three-row crossover typically, because you want a bunch of space either for people or for stuff. And I think that those vehicles deliver on that better than the others. And also it's a nice smooth ride. And, the Toyota and the Lexus, MDX handles great. And I would say MDX handles better than TX and Pilot as well. So MDX is definitely the handling champ there. Pilot is hard for me to love. Maybe we will see if they give it the same improvements we saw for Passport here recently. But right now, Pilot just has that smaller screen. The plastics are just kind of cheap. It's durable. And if you're going to beat the crap out of it, then I guess that's maybe something that would be appealing. But if you're looking at the luxury stuff, and I'm assuming you don't need durable. So, yeah, Pilot's an easy one for me to nix personally. Again, if it's coming in at a lower price point, obviously, than the other two, and you want to save some money, I still would just say get a Grand Highlander instead. I know you didn't list that, and I'm guessing there's a reason why. But yeah, I can't really recommend Pilot with just how good Grand Highlander is out there. And again, if you're considering MDX and TX, I'd much rather have either of those over a Pilot as well. Yeah, I think TX is the best in the luxury segment just from a cruiser standpoint and just the amount of space there. So, yeah, hopefully that helps you a little bit. Always happy to discuss more either here or if you want to send a message or an email, something like that. I'm happy to work through it with you if you want to provide some more context too. And Antonio also, sorry I missed it. Thanks so much for rejoining as well. I appreciate that. And yeah, happy to have you back in the club here. Let me see. I see Moody says, am I crazy for wanting a MDX as a 26-year-old? Absolutely not. If it fits your lifestyle, go for it. There doesn't have to be any kind of stereotypes with cars or anything. If you want to have a big, roomy family crossover as a 26-year-old, absolutely. A lot of people love loading it up with their gear, whatever it is you want to do with it. Having all that space is really nice for a lot of people. And MDX is great. I love them. So, yeah, no issues there. And I actually, since there's discussions about MDX here, I will be early next year posting my review on the refreshed MDX Type S. Which, I really liked it before. And yeah, I think it continues to be a really nice SUV too. And Luke says, I really think Ford could bring back the Escort name and make it a subcompact plug-in hybrid. Yeah, I like that idea as an enthusiast, but then again, putting myself out of the enthusiast mindset and into a regular person that maybe doesn't remember Escort, or someone who is doesn't have that in their recent memory. Escort can be a problematic name these days. I think it would be entertaining, and I'm sure again marketing departments could go wild with that one too. But yeah, I don't think an Escort would ever be a wise choice for a comeback there. But Austin says that Jaguar ad was the stupidest thing ever. Maybe they made it bad on purpose to get people to engage with it. Yeah, just like we said here, I think that is absolutely part of it. And Antonio says, I don't think my membership had expired. I hadn't been in here in a month. Yeah, all good. Happy. Yeah, sometimes YouTube's weird without too. I know some people that like it said that they had signed up like permanently or whatever, like it kind of kicked them out for whatever reason. They didn't, continue to get renewed for some reason, but happy to have you back here. And Grant says, I didn't know anything about it until Watch JR Go made a video about it. Yeah, a bunch of people. I know that dude in blue made a video as well. And again, I missed the memo that was going to be a super triggering thing apparently for a lot of people. But Antonio says, I recently bought a 25 Camry SE and I've been loving it, which feels weird to say that about a hybrid. Well, congrats on the Camry there, and I'm glad you're loving it. Yeah, they're great. And like I said in my week with video, a few weeks ago, it's really fun, especially I don't know if you got all-wheel drive or not, but especially the all-wheel drive one, powering out of corners, it's really aggressive with the electric assist there, and it's fun. I mean, I was cracking up in that video, and it's the fastest 225 horsepower, whatever I think I've ever felt. It's really, it punches above its class, I think, as far as the fun component for just a regular, family sedan. And they did a great job on the new Camry. And Knight's asking us, yeah, Jaguar going full EV. That was the plan, but a lot of companies have said that and now backtracked. So again, we will see. They may pull a Scout and surprise us with a gas, component too. Austin says, hey Matt, am I crazy for wanting to trade in my Fiesta ST for a 2022 or up Audi A3? Absolutely not. I think a lot of, I'm not sure your age exactly, but I think a lot of us kind of are maybe approaching our 30s or getting into our 30s. Like, I'm 34. Getting into that point where, the Fiestas and stuff are fun, but it's like, I'm ready for a little more comfort now, and, something that's, just a little more comfy than in the past. And maybe that's just a personal thing for me in the way that I've grown, but I think it's something that's very common. So I don't think you're crazy at all. And A3s are great. Obviously, if you can bump up to the S3, then I think that would cause you to miss your Fiesta ST even a little less, because then you have a little bit more of a dynamic performer. But I mean, A3 is still great. Still even regular A3, I believe, is an upgrade in horsepower over Fiesta. But I don't know if it's quite as fun, but yeah, really nice little vehicle. I actually have a friend that has an A3. She really loves it. She's had it for many years now. She leased it, and I believe she actually bought out the lease because she just really enjoyed it and wanted to stick with it. And hers, I think hers is like a 2020, maybe a 2019 even. I'm not sure, but she really loves it. It's been good for her. I think she might have had one little weird electrical thing she had to bring it in for in the past year, but other than that, it's been fine. And so, yeah, I think they're some of the more solid, Audis, the more over-engineered, fancier, higher-end stuff is really where you get into trouble with electrical gremlins and stuff, whereas the A3 is, it's a nicer Golf in a lot of ways, obviously sedan as well here in the States. So, I mean, I think there's a safer bet there if you're going to go, European. I think, some of these, less complicated ones are the better way to go. So yeah, I think that'd be a good choice. Ford Enthusiast says, evening, Matt. I am trying to decide whether or not to wait for the 25 Mach-E or take advantage of the incentives on the 24 with the free charger and the installation, plus as much as $5,000 off MSRP. Thoughts? It's a great question. I guess it really comes down to how badly do you want the 25 changes. If you don't care that much about the 2025 changes, absolutely, go for the 24, especially because, the incentives probably are going to go away, at least as far as the tax credit. I mean, I think Ford's still going to have to pile on incentives here until we hit a new wave of EV adoption, potentially, the next year or two, we'll see. But, so I think that there will still be discounts from Ford for 25s. And maybe they will really try and overcompensate if they're, hurt bad by them losing the tax credit, if that does in fact happen, although I'd say it's likely. So, and I've even considered this myself because, I've been dabbling with the idea of like one of those stupid cheap Ioniq 6 leases, or, picking up, there's a couple other vehicles that are electrified that I'm, like tempted sometimes to, be like, well, it'd be nice to just have another car in case I don't have a press car to drive. So we're not just like a one car household relying on the Mach-E, but I mean, all this year I've had a press vehicle. So but anyway, regardless, I've been debating like, okay, if I'm going to get another, EV or an electrified thing for myself, I got to do it probably before January 20th, so I think there's definitely that crunch that a lot of people are feeling. And I think you will probably see, I mean, this is just a hunch, but I think you will see a little spike here towards the end of the year of people being like, oh crap, the tax credit's going away. I got to get it now while I can, and hurrying up and, jumping on it here in the next month or so. And maybe some people already have this month, but I think that's, something you might actually see EV adoption kind of spike here for the next month or two. But so yeah, it really comes down to how much you want those changes there. But I mean, it's a great deal right now. I would also argue it depends on, again, if you're getting new car financing or you want to lease or something like that, then that could make sense. But also you got to look at used Mach-E's. If you are open to used, I mean, I just looked up the other day, the trade-in value for our 13,000 miles, 2022 Mach-E, the trade-in is between $20,000 and $24,000. A car that was $50,000 a little over 2 years ago. I mean, it's literally more than half of the value has been erased. And so that's, the more and more that I, even am trying to do like reviews on, the new Honda Civic or whatever, it's like, you could also get like a Mach-E. And again, not everyone is able to charge at home. Not everyone is able to, like EVs for whatever reason. And a lot of those reasons are very much justified, like I've said in the past. But if you have no objections to EVs, you would be crazy to not buy a used EV right now, especially because they still carry like the 100,000-mile battery warranty. And especially if you're not going to keep it for 15 years, you're just going to keep it till, 100,000 miles or so, like most people usually turn over cars. It's a no-brainer. Like a Mach-E is far nicer, far faster, far more car for the same money as a base bare bones Civic that you can get right now for $25,000, or you can get a Mach-E with all-wheel drive. And we have like, I think 260 horsepower and it's like 428 pound-feet of torque or something. Like, no brainer. And I mean, that also goes for Ioniq 6. You can lease one of those for $200 a month, $200 a month for, a 225 horsepower rear wheel drive, cool looking sedan. Ioniq 5, same deal. It's, and all these, I mean, even used Ioniq 5s are 25 grand. If you want faster charging than the Mach-E provides. So, I mean, used EVs are this red hot deal that I know it's not sexy to talk about. So most people don't talk about it, but like, if you don't have no objections to EVs, now is the time to buy an EV. Absolutely. So yeah, make with that word vomit whatever you like for enthusiasts, but hopefully that helps you a little bit there. But yeah, I think you can't go wrong either way, but I just would act quickly. I don't know when the 25s are going to start to hit the lots, but yeah. And Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat. He says EV charging infrastructure will slow January of 2025. So I will say I don't know all the facts and all the specifics on a lot of that stuff, but what I can say is that I did read in the past couple of weeks that a lot of the states are quickly trying to get these projects started, and I believe the current administration is dumping a ton of that money that was supposed to be doled out slowly. They are making sure that they get as much of that out as they can now, so that those projects are already in the works, and that the states already have that money before January to get the continuing of that charging infrastructure. And I think the charging infrastructure thing is going to continue, partially because again, Elon Musk is very close to Trump now, and I think that that is going to, in some cases, like he's advocating for getting rid of the tax credit. So in some areas, it's going to hurt the EV movement, but in others, he wants to put more superchargers out there. They think they just actually announced their faster superchargers I saw something new about that in the past week or two here. They're going to start, doing those. So like, and they rely on a lot of that incentive money as well. They get huge subsidies for putting the superchargers in there too. And Elon's getting a ton of government money and has been for a while, subsidizing a lot of this electric stuff. So I don't think they're going to want to shut that tap off completely, because that would hurt Elon's personal interests. So I think that we will see the supercharger network expand, and now the supercharger network is opened up to everybody else. That will mean that the infrastructure will continue to grow. And it's also a money-making thing. Regardless of what happens, policy-wise, electric cars are still growing every year in market share. It's shooting up as fast as it was before, but it is still growing despite what headlines you might have read. The fact is, like, it is gaining market share. They are selling hundreds of thousands of new EVs every single month, and that is continuing. So, there is demand, and when there's demand, someone's going to supply it. Someone's going to make money off of that. Who, they're not just going like, oh, well, yeah, we're just not going to serve customers anymore. Like, they're going to serve customers, and someone's going to make money off of it. So, Electrify America, EVgo, all those, they're still in business to provide chargers and sell charging to people. So they will continue that. Even if there's less incentives, it'll hurt the movement. I mean, we saw, I think Germany pulled their EV tax credit this past year, and it hurt the market for sure. And it really killed a lot of the demand for EVs, but there's still people buying them. It's still growing. It's just not growing as fast. So what I think you'll see infrastructure continue to grow. And I think because of, again, the infusion of cash that's happening at the end of this year, you won't really see much of a slowdown probably next year. You may see a slowdown as we get, into, the mid to late 2020s here. If they do turn off that tap or, really restrict the amount of money that goes to that stuff. But again, you'll still have companies that are just going to do it on their own without subsidies, because again, the ball has already started rolling. It's not going to stop. And so it's a matter of, supporting that demand, and it's just supply and demand. And so I think that's, that's why I'm not too worried. I don't think it'll be supported as much as I would like to see, but I think it will continue on regardless. And so I think there's, some stability there. I don't think it's going to be, a complete rug pull or anything. And great question, Jordan. And thanks for the first super chat of the night here as well. And let me see. So where were we? If the other member questions here. So Good Six says Aston Martin is killing it with throwbacks. Yeah, Aston Martin is doing well with their throwbacks for sure. A lot of the stuff is things that, people wanted to see, return, as far as, Vanquish and all the like race car things and one-offs and stuff. I think Aston Martin's doing really well from our standpoint, but also you look at Aston Martin sales, they're also burning a ton of cash. They're also still not doing as well as they really need to. And so, I don't know, you might even see some more radical stuff from Aston Martin as well to try and change the tide, because again, the usual same old might not work for them forever, because, they keep having these lifeboats with people infusing them with more cash and partnerships and stuff. But, they're not doing amazing. So I think Aston Martin, might be in the same kind of predicament as Jaguar if, things don't improve drastically for them here. I think they're doing great. They have great products, just like Jaguar had great products in all of the 2010s. It doesn't always matter, unfortunately. You have to have that appeal. You have to have that awareness with the regular people who just want to flaunt. I think Aston Martin has the built-in thing with James Bond, so they're a little bit better off than Jag, but that only goes so far as well. And you only have so many people that want to, cosplay as James Bond before it's like, okay, well, we also need to like stand on our own 2 feet and, find other things to, bring people into the brand. DBX was a good start, but now DBX sales are cratering as well. So, there's some challenges there for sure. Again, doing the same old just does not work. And I'm also the same thing. I'm the same thing as Jaguar right now. I'm doing the same old. I'm very much in a formulaic thing, and my channel's declining. It's the same kind of deal, and you look at the channels that did drastic switch ups, drastic, changes, and evolved with the times and follow the trends and the fads. They're the ones that are doing better. So, it hits a little close to home sometimes when I think about it, for a little too long. But Austin says someone did a funny AI ad where a Jaguar attacks all the Zoolander weirdos. in the new Jaguar commercial. Interesting. Yeah, AI is going to be a great source of creativeness for a lot of people, and of course, it will have its downsides as well. So, yeah, the AI thing it'll be interesting to see how that goes, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. And Kyle says Chevy has a Blazer EV/SS configurator live. Do you think that will be a hard sell at 61 grand? Potentially. I mean, I think it is. It's tough. It's tough to do that stuff in large volume. That's the problem. Because 61 grand, you compare the specs to like Ioniq 5N, which is 65. Blazer SEV maybe is a little bit of a bargain. I haven't driven it yet. It's hard for me to imagine it would be better than Ioniq 5N just because of what that car has and what Blazer EV/SS does not have. But, if it's a slight discount, and especially if there's a lot of incentives or discounts, that Chevy adds on, then it could make some more sense. I don't think you should pay MSRP for one. I don't think definitely shouldn't pay a markup for one. But I think that it could make sense at the right price, I think is my consensus on that vehicle without, again, having driven it. That's been so weird. It's been so delayed. I have no clue when. I mean, I guess that's news to me. The configurator's live, so that's a positive step in the right direction. So hopefully they start hitting the roads here. I think it was supposed to come out early summer, and then that obviously came and went. But hopefully we see it soon. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out for them. But I mean, I think it just comes down to, again, personal preference as well, and how people. Who's going for that over Ioniq 5N? Probably someone who wants something that's a little less hardcore than that vehicle. Something a little bit more creature comfort, because it has the panoramic roof, it has the cooled seats, all these other fancy things you don't get in the Ioniq 5N. So I think that's, it could actually be a decent sell when you compare it to the competitors. It might actually compare fairly favorably as far as, the checking the boxes kind of mentality. And Dom says, what are some reliable, exciting, sporty cars going for about 15 grand? No other major requirements, preferably manual and or hatch. Okay. That's a little bit of a tough niche. I'm trying to think, because the price tag, I mean, especially these days, 15 doesn't buy a lot. And that's kind of a segment that I don't really monitor a whole lot to see like what has dropped down to that kind of a price tag. The one that I can say that I personally do keep an eye on, is the only reason why I know that it's kind of in that range, is current, or I guess now technically prior gen Mini Cooper S that was current until the past few months here. That generation Mini Cooper S, those have started to drop to about 15 or so. And you can get it in a manual, and it's a hatch, and reliability actually for this new gen Mini, because it's just the BMW B48 motor in that, it's pretty solid, from a mechanical standpoint. You might still have a few electrical gremlins. I'd still recommend getting an extended warranty if you can. Probably hard to do for 2015 or something, because that's, I think 15 or 16 is when they started with that generation. And if you're going up to a certified one, you're probably going to be up in the 20s. So probably a little bit of a tougher sell there. I know, Dom, in the past you had an Accord sedan with a manual, and that would probably be another top pick. I don't think those are 15 anymore. I'm trying to think of what else you could do. I mean, if you're okay going old, I would say you could probably do not prior gen Civic Si, because I hate the rev hang in that generation, so I don't have a lot of love for that generation unless you want to tune it and mess with it. But the prior generation before that, the last one before they went turbo, those you can get a really clean one for a little under 15 with low-ish miles for a vehicle of that age. Really fun, super reliable, exciting because of the VTEC, high red line, sporty. Again, it's an old car though. At that point, you're talking 2014s or earlier. So it's going to be an older car. But if you don't mind that, I'd say that's probably one of the ways I would go. That or the Mini, if I was in that situation. But I really haven't surveyed the rest of the market to give you a better idea of other things to check out. Maybe some others can chime in that might be a little more familiar with that price category. It's just 15. It's shocking to me that even again, those old SIs, even those, some of those are still approaching 15 grand last I saw a few months ago. So it's 15 is, I mean, yeah, you know, like I said, 30 is the new 20 with inflation with cars and stuff. So, you know, it's 15 doesn't really buy a whole lot, unfortunately, anymore. But there are, you know, those are a couple options there. I'm sure there's more too. You know, it's just trying to find. I mean, I'd even say like, you know, one of that I really like is like the prior gen Mazda 3. You can get that with a manual and a hatch. And it's reliable, and those are actually pretty torquey. You know, they've I believe those ones still had the. I think you could get the 2.5 in that. If not, even the 2 liter, you know, is a little punchy motor for what it is. I think that could be another fun little buy. Trying to think of anything else, but that's probably the best things off the top of my head. I'll do a little more thinking, and if I run across any others, and also feel free to send me a message, Tom, as well. And if I come across anything else, I'll let you know. But yeah, best of luck in your search there, and hopefully that helped you a little bit at least, maybe. Sorry, I couldn't be more help though. And I see Sonny's asking, hey, Matt, been following you since the BRZ. I had a question. In terms of superchargers, do you prefer root style or centrifugal? I mean, I think the root style ones are a little more fun to me, honestly, you know, because those are the ones that typically have a little bit more of the whine. So that's, I think the one, because I reviewed a supercharged BRZ. Actually, I think I did 2 supercharged BRZs, if I remember correctly. I did one it was an FRS a long time ago, and then I did do a supercharged BRZ. If you haven't watched that, and you said you've been following since the BRZ, so I'm guessing you probably have seen it. I think both of those were centrifugal that I reviewed. I don't know if I reviewed a root style on a BRZ, but it's really, I love supercharged BRZs because that fixes all the problems with that car power-wise, and it really just feels like a strong 6-cylinder under the hood of that thing. It's really fantastic. Absolutely. If you love that first gen BRZ or even the newer ones, I guess someone has to probably done a supercharger kit for the new ones by now, but absolutely that would be the way to go, is do a supercharger and you will have no issues with power, I'd say. And sorry, I missed a couple of the other things that came in here. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for being a member for 31 months, and I also appreciate the super chat there. I appreciate the coffee. I just had a cup of coffee earlier, so that's I'm energized here for the live. But he says, "Hey Matt, long time no see. My Model 3 lease is ending soon. Should I consider other electric sedans like the i4 or Polestar 2? Any other suggestions?" Well, happy to see you, Jeremy, and thanks so much for being a member also for, again, over 2 years, almost going on 3. Thank you so much for that. One of the first members. And as far as what to consider, Polestar 2, I don't love right now. I have never actually driven one, admittedly. But what I can say is I'm nervous about their future because, you know, they're building them in South Carolina, but I think there was some issue, you know, some talk about it with tariffs, having, you know, any extra tariffs on things that have any kind of Chinese components in them that could, you know, raise the prices. And I think Polestar is just struggling with their Chinese connection right now. And I'm a little iffy about support for Polestar long term. They're also not doing super well as a company right now. Again, they're kind of in between launches with the 3s just getting, you know, started, and they got a bunch of stuff in the pipeline, but you know, they're right now just not super strong. So I wouldn't, and they also don't have a huge dealer network. So as much as Polestar 2, you know, seems like it has some promise, I'd personally not recommend it just because of those, you know, hesitations. i4, I've heard wonderful things about. I have not driven it, unfortunately. BMW, again, they've only sent me one press car. I'm hoping I get more in the future, but they don't really like working with me a whole lot. They claim it's just because of distance, but regardless, you know, i4 sounds really good from everything I've heard about it. As for the other suggestions, if you know you're looking at just sedans, I feel like there's some Ioniq 6. I love Ioniq 6, Hyundai Ioniq 6. Maybe that's not luxurious enough for you. I'm not sure. You know, you are talking about luxury brands, obviously, with the BMW and the Polestar. But I would argue, you know, especially Polestar, it's nice in there. I don't think Ioniq 6 is drastically worse. It's probably not as nice. There's, you know, not as much metal or anything. I don't think there's any metal actually in the Ioniq 6, but you can get a loaded Ioniq 6 for so cheap, and I love the packaging because they did such a good job with the packaging in the 6 that it feels small. It feels small like your Model 3, And that's one of the things I loved about the Model 3 is it had so much space for such a small little vehicle. They did such a good job of packaging with that car. And I think Ioniq 6 is kind of in my opinion, like a perfected reverse engineered Model 3 in a lot of ways. Same small size, same kind of feel behind the wheel. Actually, I think it's a slightly lower seating position. So to me, it feels actually a little sportier than Model 3 as well. Has all the luxury stuff in the loaded version. You get the pano roof, you get heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, all those things, which I guess if you have an older Model 3, you probably don't even have cooled seats. So that'll be an upgrade. You have CarPlay and Android Auto, whether or not that's any value to you, but that's really great, as does the other ones you mentioned there. But I love Ioniq 6. If I wanted an electric sedan right now, absolutely all day, every day, I'd go for Ioniq 6. I know the styling's not for everyone, so if that's something you can't live with, totally understand. But if you don't mind the styling, Ioniq 6 all day, every day, final answer. That's 100% what I would go for. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. But yeah, I don't have any experience with those others, and there's really no other sedans I can think of. I don't know exactly what your budget is. I've seen some killer lease deals on Lucid Airs, and honestly, I feel more positive about Lucid's future than Polestar's right now. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I think Lucid's going to do pretty good things. They have excellent efficiency, and Lucid Air seems phenomenal. I've not driven that either, but a lot of car, and I think the leases are down to like $600 a month or something, maybe 700. For a car that's, even the cheap ones are like 80, 90 grand or something, and maybe they're on the used market, there would be something there. I haven't looked at used Lucids, but anyway, so that's my quick thoughts off the top of my head, but feel free to, again, shoot me a message. We can chat more about it if you have more context you'd like to add there. But thank you again for the support, for the super chat. I appreciate it all. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat as well. He says, thoughts on single driver vehicles for the US. I think that for something like the Cybercab or something, it could make sense. But I think beyond that, I think it's also just people don't buy what they need. They buy what they think they need or what they want, or for what if I need to drive someone somewhere? I think the single driver stuff just would never take off, again, aside from, hypercars, supercars, things like that. But other than that, I don't think there's any, again, people are just, they always want more practicality. And even if a coupe's a hard sell, which a lot of them still, like Mustang has 4 seats, and that still is like, no, not practical enough. I think single driver is just no way, unfortunately. It'd be fun to see, but I don't think that's ever going to make the mainstream. Well, thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat there. And then getting back to the other member questions here, I promise I'll try not to get too far behind tonight. So, let me see. Zachary says Equinox EVs are starting to pop up near me. They're strangely pointy in the front. Interesting. I haven't seen one from an angle that makes me think pointy, but I'll have to. Yeah. Interesting. It's so funny how things, hit people differently. That's interesting. I'm glad to see that they're popping up around you as well, because I'm starting to see them around here a good bit as well, and another phenomenal value as well there. And I see Courier says, Jag owner, 100% agree with your take. I appreciate that. I guess it's just me, you, and maybe a couple other people here that actually aren't, super pissed off about the Jag thing. And Trenton Car Guy says, one of the interesting spots recently was a Suzuki Samurai. Nice. That's awesome. That's another very rare one. I think Samurais are going to just take off in value. They probably already have started to, but I could see those things really being more of a cult following as time goes on. Graham says, about to pull a trigger on a CT4V Blackwing. Absolutely, do it. I wholeheartedly agree. All those cars are so underappreciated, and I wholeheartedly support any V purchase. In my opinion, they're all great. So let me be the devil on your shoulder and say, go for it. But that's awesome, and best of luck if you do decide to go for it. And Danny's saying, what do you think of the first-gen Honda Accord hybrid? Interesting that Honda went with the J30 instead of the K24. My parents are searching for a first car for me soon. It's Trax or Trailblazer. Between those two, I'd rather have the Trax personally, unless you really need all-wheel drive. But as far as the Accord hybrid, that's one of those things that was just kind of ahead of its time. Obviously hybrids were always kind of this weird kind of dorky vibe for a lot of people, and now it's going to be mainstream and has been, I think for a little while now. But I think as Toyota continues to make more and more stuff, most likely hybrid only, like we see with Camry, that'll be very much a mainstream thing. But even Honda, 50% of their sales I think they're getting for being hybridized here pretty soon. But let me see. Good Six says, I've seen Suzuki SX4s this week, especially as I come from India saying a Suzuki is nice. Nice. That's cool. Yeah. It's a shame that Suzuki couldn't have stuck it out, because I think, there's some cool stuff in other markets that, would have at least been fun to see here. Who knows if they would have sold well, but because I always thought Kizashi actually was a pretty nice little car for the money, and I thought styling was cool. I thought the stuff they offered, for the money was pretty good, and just never really did well enough for them. And Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships there. I really appreciate that, and happy to see much people able to get those memberships there. And see, the YouTube algorithm still has not been kind to Danny, but thank you so much, Kyle, for generosity. Happy to see some new faces there as well. It's always great to see. And let me see, where were we? I am so behind. I apologize, everyone. And Jordan, thank you so much for gifting a membership as well. I really appreciate it. And we'll see. Wasn't Danny Frosty Johnson? Happy to see. That's a name I remember. And happy to see there. But I get back in. Zachary says it'll be easier to find the Pilot and the MDX than the TX. Our MDX 24 MDX drives amazing and has some nice usability features. The Pilot was a close contender and is priced well. Thanks for sharing. Your thoughts, Zachary. And TX was kind of pulled from sale for a while because they had that side curtain airbag recall that took them off the market for several months. I think they have since fixed it, and I think they're back to being good to go. But it's TX. I know they're super hot sellers, and it's amazing. Even just with a couple of months that they were on sale before the stop sale, I see TXs everywhere already. They are. I mean, Lexus and Toyota, they absolutely knew what they were doing with those vehicles. Just absolutely nailed it, and sales are showing that. I mean, again, lots of MDXs out there as well, and Pilots for sure. I have neighbors that have both, but it's impressive how TX has jumped up a lot, even despite the hard availability there. Which is interesting. And Nightbreaker, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, love your vids, been watching since 2018. I appreciate that. He says, I currently own a 2023 Sentra, but plan to trade later. Could you recommend a fast and fun but economical car? I think the first thing that jumps into my head is Civic Si. That's really a fun vehicle that is also great on gas. And there's some other things in that segment that, kind of take a hit with fuel economy whenever you go for the sporty versions it's just a sacrifice. But with Civic Si, you don't have much of a sacrifice. There's also, if you want a little less handling, I love Civic Hybrid. I just did a review on that. Again, same size as Sentra there, and they're a little pricier, but it's actually faster than the SI. You just don't have the engagement of the manual. Whether or not you like a manual, I'm not sure. But especially if you don't, or you want an automatic, Civic Hybrid is great. You get 50 mpg. And you get Civic Si acceleration, or better than Civic Si acceleration. That's really, I think, one of my top choices, especially if you're wanting to stick to a compact sedan like your Sentra. So that would be, probably one of the top picks. Depending on how much, fuel economy you're looking for, obviously. There's some others that, do fairly well. Most of the stuff in that segment these days, like your Sentra even, should hopefully do pretty decent gas mileage. But I think Civic Hybrid gives you kind of those best of both worlds kind of thing. Other than that, it comes down to, again, how much performance you want, and exactly, again, what your price range is. Because also I'd say, Elantra and 35 grand, a lot of car. Not sure if that's, if you're going up that high, if you want that much performance or not. I think that can still crack into the 30s for fuel economy if you take it easy with the manual on the highway. But even the 8-speed DCT might be better. But so there's a bunch of options. Feel free also to send me a message if you'd like after this live. I'll be more than happy to chat with you and get a little more context as far as exactly what you're looking for and what your budget is there. And I'd be more than happy to help help you find a car you love. That's what I love doing. I have people message me almost every week, asking those kinds of questions, and that's what I love to do. Is help people find a car they'll love. So absolutely more than happy to help you out some more. And thank you so much for the super chat. Hopefully that helped you a little bit. If Civic Hybrid wasn't on your radar yet already, that's definitely one I think it's worth checking out. And Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, origins of LiDAR car tech. Where did it come from? I'm not sure. Honestly, I have no clue. I think LiDAR, I'm assuming or guessing it came probably from military uses first before it, kind of popped up in the car world, but I have no clue. I actually really know nothing about the history of LiDAR. So I completely am falling flat on that question for you. I apologize, but yeah, I do not know. It's a great question. I'll be curious to know myself, but thanks so much. I see Nightbreaker also says, thanks, looking for something 30 to 35 grand. Okay. Yeah, 30 to 35, then yeah, launcher N, really fantastic. Again, comes down to exactly how much economy you want, fuel economy wise. But yeah, I think that's, Civic Hybrid also is, over 30 for the nice one. So that also falls in that price range nicely. Civic Si also now like 31. So that could be another good one. Yeah, I mean, there's also like Mazda 3 Turbo. That doesn't actually get great fuel economy. But if you're okay with something in the mid to high 20s fuel economy wise, a lot of punch there, 320 pound-feet of torque. That would be great. I would stay away from WRX unless you absolutely need all-wheel drive, because that just doesn't get great fuel economy. I just had the TS again. The video will be coming here in the next week or two. And WRX TS, I was getting like 20 mpg, so it's just crap fuel economy in the WRX still. So I would stay away from WRX, but everything else, should be pretty decent. Yeah, so hopefully that helps you out a little bit there. And I see also Ford Enthusiast, thanks so much for being a member for 2 months now. I said, Matt, you got me thinking now about an Ioniq 5 or 6 over the Mach-E. What do you think about the Ioniq 9 that Hyundai revealed at the LA Auto Show? I think it's great, and I think it's actually really smart that they made it bigger than EV9, even if it's just ever so slightly, because one, it gives them bragging rights that ours is a little bit bigger, and especially for that market of three-row SUVs, bigger is always better. So I think that was a smart move. I mean, in reality, maybe it doesn't actually give them much more space over EV9. We will see. But I think that's a smart move. I think it also looks fantastic, in my opinion. Again, you have the great eGMP platform, super fast charging, great range, over 300 miles for all of them. I think it's really well done. I think, yeah, I really like it a lot. I'm looking forward to reviewing it, sometime next year, hopefully. And based on that being one of the headlines for the weekly update, it sounds like very few people are interested in that vehicle. But I think it's an important one because, again, a lot of companies aren't doing three-row SUVs in the EV segment. Ford was going to, and they just, canceled that. So I think that Hyundai and Kia really have the market all to themselves, at least as far as people who don't care about, like the Rivian and stuff, which is a little more rugged and all that, and not quite as roomy, I don't think either, as, EV9 or the Ioniq 9. So I think Hyundai is killing it for beating everyone to that market, really, aside from, I guess, Model X, which, I don't think, again, has as much room as those either. But yeah, I think it's really smart of Hyundai and Kia being, the first one out there. And yeah, we will see how it goes. I think that vehicle, is going to be one that's going to get off to a slow start because, again, we're in a lull with EV demand. But I truly think it's going to pick up again around 2026 or so, because that's 2026, mid 2026 is when everyone is, or a lot of people are estimating we will reach cost parity with gas as far as battery prices, because battery prices are really falling quickly. Again, we will see some of that might be slowed down with that progress, depending on how policy is formed here in 2025 and beyond. But even internationally and globally, battery prices are falling. So even if we don't contribute to that here in the States as much, it's going to continue to improve. And so that's going to, I think, drive this next wave of EV adoption and drop the pricing of a lot of these other things. We might actually see a lot of EVs, even current generation EVs, kind of drop in price quickly if all of a sudden the batteries that are going into them are a lot cheaper to make. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I really like Ioniq 9 for sure. Let me see. Also, Nightbreaker says something about the WRX that gravitates me to it. Too bad about the fuel economy, though. Yeah, and I mean, it really comes down to what your priorities are. If you can live with the fuel economy, then go for it. I also will add little out of your budget, just a tad, but GR Corolla. Someone probably was already predicting I was going to say this, but GR Corolla, you can get a used one for like a little over 35 for a core. Now you're getting a bare bones Corolla interior pretty much. And you're in a core, you're not getting any options whatsoever. So it really comes down to how much you prioritize the fast and fun component. But if you can go like 36, 37, maybe, GR Corolla gives you WRX better than WRX performance. It's really like STI performance that it gives you. And it's coming from a turbo 3-cylinder. So when you're not beating the snot out of it, which is going to be hard to do because it's really fun to beat the snot out of it. But whenever you aren't, it's going to give you really good fuel economy. I don't remember what I got during my week with the GR Corolla. Definitely check that video out if you haven't already. But I know it was better than the WRX. So if, again, I don't know how you feel about that vehicle, but if you want WRX vibes, and you want something that's even better, in my opinion, GR Corolla, if you're willing to flex a little bit, would absolutely be my pick. If you're going, mid to high 30s, that is 100% the move in my mind. Again, I might be biased, and everyone's gonna like different things. So, but if it were me and I had your money and I wanted to, have an all-wheel drive, fun, manual vehicle or automatic now with the new GR Corolla for 25. I see Michelle says obligatory GR Corolla mention of the stream. Absolutely, man. I wish Toyota was paying me for that, because I am the biggest cheerleader for that car, and these days no one seems to like it anymore. That automatic video just completely bombed. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it did not get the views I was expecting out of it. But yeah. So anyway, there's my thoughts there. And now everyone can sign off now that I've mentioned GR Corolla for the night, or take your shot if you're waiting for it. I'm sure there's a drinking game for that by this point. But anyway, let me see. TFI says, we're talking about, okay, recommending Volvo C30 comes in a manual or automatic. Turbo 5 is shared with the European Focus RS. That's a fun choice. Absolutely. I don't know about reliability. That's the only wild card there. I'm sure you have more of an idea than I do, TFI, on that. But if they are reliable, then absolutely. I'd love to review one of those someday. That seems like such a cool little car. Nicholas, speaking of GR, says, did my free track day from GR yesterday. Was a lot of fun. It was great seeing a dozen other GR86s at the track, and I learned a whole lot. That's awesome. I love that Toyota and other companies as well throw that in. It's another great thing about the V. I know that Graham was talking about, contemplating a V Blackwing. With the Blackwings, they also give you that same thing where you get the driving school thrown in for free. I think you have to fly yourself there, but as long as you're okay for paying for travel, a free track day where they teach you how to drive your car. That is the way to build responsible owners for these things. Whether you're talking about a GR86 or you're talking about a Blackwing, you show people what these cars can do and also what they can't do, and what you can do and what you can't do from your own limits and your own skills. And learning that in a safe environment is worth its weight in gold. I love that they do that. It's awesome you took advantage of that, because I think a lot of people don't take advantage of it for valid reasons, whether it's just the travel or whatever. But it's awesome that you're able to enjoy that, and yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing, Nicholas. And YouTuber comments says, Matt, need one car to be reliable, useful, and nice. How do you like the Crown Signia? I love the Crown Signia. Yeah, I really love the thing. I'll be doing I just spent a week with one, and I'll be posting that. I think that one's coming in January, because I just have a long backlog, unfortunately. But the Cliff Notes is I really like Crown Signia, like more than I thought I would. It's not that it's like great. I mean, it's fine to drive, and it's not like it lights my hair on fire like the GR Corolla or anything. It's just that it's a good car, and it got phenomenal fuel economy. Not as good as they claimed, I will say. A little spoiler there. I think I got 34 mpg in my week with that. But it's really, really good. I just came out of it here a week ago, and the amount of space that thing can swallow up so much crap in the back of that thing. It's so practical, so good looking, so comfy. And it's just, it's more wagon. I'm just so over the every other day someone else is coming out with a new rugged thing with all-terrain tires and blah, blah, blah. And like my eyes just glaze over, because that's not me. I mean, again, I'm glad they're going for the market. People like that stuff. It's just not me. But so I think the Crown Signia is a breath of fresh air, in my opinion, and I absolutely adore them. Hard to find, because they're not building a ton of them. But if you can track one down, I really love it. So yeah, you can, in the meantime, until January, you can watch my original review. I really liked it there as well. But I think even living with it for a week in my own territory, it's been even more enjoyable. Brian says, congrats on the new car. Yeah, there. And Antonio says, I'd love to plug in my Escort. Yeah. Yeah, Ford Escort is not coming back, I don't think. Luke says, my family doesn't understand enthusiasts. They judge me so hard for not keeping most of my cars longer than a few years. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people. I mean, a lot of my family members also keep their cars until they run them into the ground. You know, they are. I totally get it. I understand, and that's the way I was raised as well. But the appeal of the shiny new thing or the fun new thing, you know, even if it's not just a, you know, a luxury thing or something, it's just having something that is new and exciting. I totally get it for sure. Good Stick says the next James Bond movie should include the Goldfinger DB12 and the or being Goldfinger DB12 and the Goldfinger Phantom would be a cool way to introduce the new James Bond whenever it does come out. I agree. I hope they work in the Phantom for sure. The DB12, I think, but I mean, who knows when the new James Bond movie is coming out? But I feel like DB12 might be a little dated by that point. I'm sure they always usually go for top vehicles typically. So, I mean, I guess they went for, well, DB10 technically wasn't Vantage, but it was based on Vantage, you know. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming they'll use Vanquish. You know, if they do, you know, having a heavy emphasis on cars, I'm sure that they're going to want to try and work an Aston Martin in one way or another. We'll see. But I've been wondering recently, you know, what's going on with James Bond. I've heard like a pretty solid rumor about who the new Bond is going to be. I don't remember his name because it's like it's not an easy to remember name for me. It's someone who's not in a lot of American movies, at least. But regardless, yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with James Bond. I'm hoping it's great. I think Daniel Craig is always going to be my Bond because that was my teenage years, my impressionable years was Daniel Craig, and he's just, you know, a rock star in my mind. So, but I'm really hoping that they do something great with the new series whenever that does end up coming out. And let me see. So I see more stories here about Mitchell says he survived all the double entendre jokes about the Escort when he had an Escort. It's funny, a Ford Escort we should highlight. And I said it would work today. Then again, it replaced the Pinto. True. So they had a low bar to start with for sure there. And I see Shane says, I'm going to be keeping my Bolt for a few more years. I hope when it's time to upgrade, there'll be more range extender EV options. I think absolutely there will be a lot more of that. I mean, that's all Toyota's talking about is, you know, these range extender things, and a lot of other companies as well. So I think that's going to be the thing for the second half of the 2020s here is range extender, all the things. You know, I think everyone knows that's a really good idea. Finally, I've been preaching it from the mountaintops since RAV4 Prime, you know, came out in 2020, and now finally, you know, people are hopping on board with that. But Two is in the house. Thanks for stopping by, Two. He says that basement lore is about to go crazy. Just plugging the Discord. Yes, absolutely. Anyone who's a member or a new member now, they just got gifted one. Definitely check out the Discord server. If you would like access to it, I didn't post. It's been a while since I posted. I think the link from the old one is definitely dead. If you want to get access, definitely send me a message. All my contact info is in the description. Whatever messaging or social media thing you want to use, send me a message. More than happy to get you into the Discord server if you're a member there. Yeah, it's always good too. Always puts his very entertaining slightly AI generated raps there that are pretty brilliant. So yeah, definitely check that out if you're a member. And let me see here. Where were we? Dom says, is your jacket related to the ad? The Jaguar ad? Nope, just a fan of Puma, the other pouncing Jag there. Excuse me. Actually, I didn't plan that, but yeah, that is absolutely the topic of the night here. Vishal says that helps. Thanks, Matt. Haven't seen either cars in person, but not sure when we'll be buying, if at all. Still an idea for now. Still love our Highlander overall. Only regret is getting the captain's chairs. Interesting. Yeah, that's I totally can understand. Let me see other questions here. Sorry, I lost my place. Also, Vishal says, we've had more family visiting us this year, and having captain's chairs with a smaller third row isn't an ideal setup. Gotcha. I can understand. TFI says, what is the least appropriate car for James Bond? I feel like he could make any car look cool except a base white Tesla Model 3. True. Yeah, that is a pretty bland these days because they're just so commonplace. Least appropriate car. That's a fun question. I don't know. Because, you look at over the years, I mean, he's driven everything from, rickshaws and, little three-wheeled French vehicles all the way up to, the awesome stuff you've obviously seen. So I think that's the fun thing about Bond is depending on the situation, literally anything could be a vehicle that he needs, and it makes anything look cool. That's the fun of it. Let me see. DeFi says Puma followed us into adulthood through Costco. Yeah, I've always loved Puma, and absolutely, it's something I got hooked on as a teenager, I think. Let me see. Jay says, hey, Matt, hopefully the Morans are doing great. Always a pleasure to see you. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by, Jay. And we're all doing well. Just getting excited for the holidays here. It's such a fun, special time, especially with little kids. It really adds to the fun of it. It makes the holidays that much more enjoyable. I see Me's also asking, do you think the Blackwings will stick around for another model year? I think so. They have invested, into this refresh, so it will certainly stick around. And especially now with, probably the EPA going out the window, there's going to be a lot of older platform stuff, gas stuff, especially the gas guzzler stuff that can stick around. Doesn't mean that they will forever because these companies have their own goals and they don't plan based on 4-year administrations. But I think that especially when you have stuff where supplier network's already still up and running and you don't have to revive stuff like, people are saying, oh, Hellcats can come back. Not that easy whenever, you have those suppliers that have dropped out, and stopped producing stuff. But I think that with, Blackwing, that will stick around for a little while. And I think there's a lot of passion with that team. And again, CT5 also sells very well for Cadillac globally. Globally, it's actually the best-selling Cadillac, which is really, obviously, again, because we're talking about other markets where Escalade is not sold. But still, CT5 is the best-selling thing for them worldwide, which means hopefully CT5 is safe. CT4, I don't know, but I think at least CT5 is safe, and that's great to hear because, again, such a fantastic car. Maybe one day I'll put my money where my mouth is. If I ever need a four-door practical car for myself, I would totally rock any CT5. They're just, the chassis is just so good with that Alpha platform. But anyway, I see a few more super chats here come in. So, Nate, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, you have 200 grand. Do you buy one 40-year-old base spec 911 or all 14 Nissan Murano cross cabriolets currently listed on Auto Trader? Excellent question, Nate. Thank you for the super chat. That's really a tough one, because, you could be the hoarder of Murano cross cabriolets and be quite the connoisseur. Savage Geese would have such immense respect for you. And that is quite the question. I will let everyone else. I see Matt R says Murano CC and Demolition Derby, and the winner gets the 911. There you go. Absolutely. That is an epic question. Thanks so much for asking, Nate. And Phil, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. I really appreciate that. He says, GR Super opinion, one word. Man, that is a challenge. I got to really think about my word. I only got one of them, and I'm a very verbose person, as all of you know. One word. The word that jumps to me is wild, because it's just the short wheelbase. I know I'm talking more than one word, but short wheelbase makes it very tail happy, very wild with the acceleration, wild with the sound and the crackling and the popping, wild with just the whole attitude of the car, in my opinion. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Maybe that seems a little much for some people, but I would say to me it is a wild driving experience. It's not like completely insane, but it's a fun, wild ride. So I think that would be probably the best word. If you gave me another 10 minutes to really think over it hard, I'd probably maybe have another one for you there. If something else pops into my head, I will break the rule and go for a second word. But I think that's probably the one that I would say. I love GR Supra though, absolutely. And if I didn't need a back seat, and I still had bullet money to spend, I probably still would end up being in a Supra. It'd be really tempting to, not go for a GR Corolla, or even keep it simple and go GR86, but I love Supra. So I think I would still probably, if I had bullet money and I couldn't get a Mustang, I'd probably go GR Supra. And thank you so much again for the very generous super chat. Let me see. Getting back to the other member questions here. Let me see. I promise I'll get caught up here. I'll get get quicker. Jay says, I'm already looking for a new car for my wife. I just showed her your review of the TX 350 premium all-wheel drive. I told her you're my car advisor. She's been wanting a Lexus, and she has a 21 Honda Passport. Well, yeah, I think the TX is fantastic. I love basically everything that Lexus is doing these days, though. So I think I'm trying to think of a bad Lexus that I wouldn't recommend. LX, I guess. But aside from, LX isn't bad. It's just a lot of money for really over-engineered stuff that isn't, justified for 99% of the people that actually buy them. But yeah, so everything other than LX, I wholeheartedly support from Lexus. They're really, really good. But TX is fantastic. That'd be a great, nice step up there. And they do a great job. And if you have any other questions, Jay, of course, always feel free to reach out. More than happy to help you guys out in your decision-making process there in any way that I can. And Austin says, I watched a walkthrough of the LA Auto Show, and the magic just doesn't seem to be there anymore. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older. I think I was a little underwhelmed this year at LA too. Like usually Toyota has, at least one big debut. There was nothing from them. Hyundai had the main stuff, but it was, I agree. It was kind of underwhelming. I was, waiting I was like doing the weekly update, and I was like, I saw the press schedule, and even some of those things were a little disappointing. Like Ford had like a media conference. It wasn't like a news conference, but they had like a slot in the schedule. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe Ford's got something new. And there wasn't actually anything. Fiat, I was like, oh, sweet. Fiat's going to finally bring something interesting over. And instead it was this Armani edition of the 500e, and I like hardest eye roll ever. And so, I was underwhelmed too. So I'm happy, I've gone to LA pretty consistently the past couple of years for the show. I only go whenever I'm hosted because auto shows, again, are a money loser for me if I go on my own dime. But I'm glad I didn't miss much this year, in my opinion. It's, no, I was not feeling like I missed out whatsoever. Raphael says, I was floored on Friday. The dealer offered me 26 grand for my car. It's a 2020 that was 32 grand new. So tempting. That's impressive because used values have started to soften a little bit there. But I think, again, I remember correctly, I think it's Camry TRD, right? You have Raphael. And if so, those, again, Toyota hasn't said anything about any kind of new TRD or GR or whatever they're going to do, if anything at all. Excuse me. So, I'm not sure. But, in the meantime, there's a lot of people that want a 300 horsepower Camry. And so it's a great buy because they're going to hold their value until there's something new announced, and there might not ever be something new announced. So it's pretty safe to say you probably got the last of the V6 powered, performance Camrys. So that alone is going to probably make your car, even if it's not like a high end collectible someday, but I think it's going to be a sought after car for a long time. And so, I think you got a good car in your hands there. Let me see. Gustavo says high mile Fiesta or Focus ST. I think either one should be okay. I've seen them do okay higher mileage. I've seen actually some Focus STs like well into the 200,000 range. I think someone actually cracked. I think I saw one over 300,000 even at one point. Obviously, owner forums, stuff like that is a great place to ask about that because that's where you'll really get a lot of info on those. To hear what people are actually doing out in the real world with them, but they seem to be pretty reliable, all things considered. The Matrix said, I got my 25 core GR Corolla coming into my dealership in Nashville at MSRP in 2 weeks. Woo, that's awesome. Congrats, and happy to hear the support of the GR Corolla cause. That is awesome. You have 2 thumbs up from me, and congrats. You're going to love it. I'm convinced you are going to love it. So congrats on that. Let me see. Sorry, I missed the other couple of super chats that came in here. So Ryan, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, hey, Matt, what are your thoughts on Jag's rebrand? So we just talked about this at the beginning of the stream. I don't want to repeat myself. I know some people have probably joined a little late here. Yeah, so how do I say this concisely? I didn't have an issue with it at all. Jaguar was not trying to sell cars. They were trying to make a statement and trying to get people to talk about it. And it succeeded 100%. People are talking about it. We're all talking about it. People are asking lots of questions about it. It's the hot topic here of the week in the car world. So that is a success. That is absolutely, any press is good press, even if it's a bunch of hate. Now you have Jaguar on people's radar for the first time in years. And again, all of us enthusiasts already knew about it, but now you have the general public, as this has spilled over because it's, triggering so many people. You have it spilling over. And it's a typical artsy high-end video as well. So that's, maybe I just am around so much of this stuff with all the marketing I see from other brands. I didn't bat an eye at that. I didn't like it. I didn't even, that's why I was shocked whenever people were like, oh, like, what do you think about the Jag? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what about it? And then like all of a sudden there's this outrage and all kinds of people freaking out and writing off Jag after seeing that. Some people were just writing it off, even just seeing like the new logo. I'm like, really? It's a logo. Like if the car is awesome, who cares what the badge looks like on the front of it? Look at all the people that slap, various badges on the front of their Kia Stingers because they don't like having a Kia badge. Like who cares about the badging? So to me, that's, kind of an overreaction in my opinion, but anyway, yeah, I won't go into I spent a whole 5 or 6 minutes on it in the beginning of the video, very beginning of the live stream. So literally after I was like, hello, I went straight into the Jag thing. So definitely, I don't know if you can rewind while this is actually live, but definitely check back here once this video goes as a regular, video, once we're done here to hear my full-fledged thoughts. But yeah, to me, it was supposed to get people talking. It's like a Super Bowl ad. It's maximum impact, and it achieved that purpose perfectly. They will have different ads whenever they're trying to actually sell cars. Right now, they're trying to get people to talk about Jag, and they succeeded. That's my shortest take on it. Again, it's much more expanded than my first rant, but that's the main point there. Let me see. Jordan, thank you for a super chat as well. He says, on the HBO Max series, The Penguin, he drives a purple Maserati Ghibli with gold wheels. Awesome car and show. Nice. I haven't seen it. I'll have to check that out. That sounds fun. A purple Ghibli. I love purple cars, honestly. I always love like Plum Crazy on the Challengers and stuff. Veslin, thank you so much for super chat as well. He says, from time to time, I wonder, do the Lexus IS350s, would they feel more special because it's older chassis and the sound of the NA engine? I drive a 2019 A5 2.0 TFSI, but I just wondering about the IS sometimes. IS is great. I think that's one of the reasons why it has the staying power that it has. You have the legendary Lexus reliability with a tried and true, that same V6 that, again, people love in the Camry TRD and others. And I think that, and I've said this in my past couple of reviews on the IS350 over the years, it has gotten better with age because it's now, it's different than everything else. Whenever it first came out, it was kind of, a little bit more in line with everything else at its time when it came out. But now it's a little smaller than most of the competitors, which is a downgrade if you are someone who, just wants a nice commuter. But it's a little more of a driver's vehicle now than the newer, more bloated stuff that's out there in that segment. And again, no one else offers a naturally aspirated motor, so it's unique in that way. Lexus, it has fantastic reliability, fantastic resale, something that you don't see with a lot of the other brands as well that, do sell in higher numbers. And yeah, IS, that the way they do that V6 in that vehicle, especially too, it's so much induction. No, it is really good. And honestly, like, I have to say, like, I wasn't a huge fan of IS. It was fine, but again, at the time with its competitors, I was like, I'd probably rather have some other stuff. It wasn't the most exciting choice, but as time has gone on, maybe it's me aging as well, or just being sentimental. I don't know, but like, I have more appeal for IS, where I'm like, maybe that's something I would consider down the road if I wanted a nice luxury sedan that I didn't have to worry about maintenance on, and I didn't have to worry about it, blowing up and having to do an extended warranty and this, that, and the other. I think IS is actually, really a solid buy. I'm going to probably try and revisit it. I want to do another video because the last one I did, I think was like 2022. Hasn't really changed since. But it was, maybe it was even 21 was the last time I did it. It just gets better as time goes on, I think. So I completely can agree with that take. And yeah, I love IS. Definitely, if you haven't driven one, or if you're curious about, owning one, you have driven one, I think it's worth giving it a try, especially as your A5 ages. You may see some, maintenance stuff come up. You might, start to see a few things start to age on it that are expensive to replace. Might not be a bad time to swap into an IS. Again, if you love your A5 and you're happy with it, don't, run out and dump it tomorrow. But if, that's something that I'm a firm believer in scratching an itch as far as, at least as far as cars go. If you've always wondered about something, no one is guaranteed tomorrow. If you have always wanted something, and you can afford it responsibly, absolutely, check that box, have that experience and enjoy it and be happy, that you can have that experience. You can always go back to an A5 if you regret it down the road, unless you have a really strong bond with the car and a lot of memories or something. But, I think that is, this is why, like Luke was saying about swapping cars every few years. If you're curious about something, don't live with just, well, I wonder, and the what ifs and the regrets. Go for it. Give it a try. And especially with an IS, you're not going to lose money on it, most likely, or very little. If you buy it and you sell it a year later, you probably end up driving it for free the way things are going. It's probably going to not depreciate much, at least here in the States. I'm not sure, where you're at, if it's, a little bit of a worse scenario for them. But I think the thing you will miss is the torque. You're not going to have the same kind of torque you have in your Audi right now. But aside from that, absolutely, I think, go for the cars you've always been wondering about. That's why, I always wanted a Mini, and I had one, it burned me. And, but even still, I'm kind of I still kind of have a little bit of an itch to have a Mini again, one that's reliable this time. But it's just those things, if you have those cars you have, a love for, whether it's rational or not, I think it's worth just, again, scratching that itch. Because no one's guaranteed tomorrow. But anyway, thank you so much for the super chat again, Veslin. And Phil, thank you for another super chat. He says, from time to time, I fart while driving. Does this offend Tesla due to emissions? I think that is one of those emissions that we all just have to live with if we want to continue existing. So there's some things you can only minimize so much. But thank you again for the super chat there. And let me see. Getting back to the member questions here. Where were we? So far behind. All right. I've been dabbling in some of the non-member questions, but just so we get caught up here, so we're not too far behind, I'm going to just do only member questions for a little while here and then see if we can get caught up and then go back to the others. But, so let me see. We have Good Six saying used Tesla Model 3 is now in the low 20s. Great used car. Absolutely. It's another great value. If you don't have a problem with Tesla, absolutely. I mean, it's mostly because Hertz just dumped their entire fleet, the rental fleet, and that just killed the values on those. So it's a lot of car for 20 grand. Absolutely. Like we were talking about earlier with Mach-E, same deal. Austin says clean Fiesta STs are hitting the 15 grand mark. Okay. Yeah. So as far as what Dom was asking, thanks for suggesting that, Austin. Absolutely. Yeah. Fiesta ST, if you can find one that, make sure the maintenance has been done properly. If you find one with regular oil changes, regular maintenance, and taken care of well, because a lot of those have been beat to hell and back. If you can find one that's clean and nice for 15 grand, then absolutely I would recommend that. Fiesta ST, that is one of the regrets I do have, because I almost bought one of those instead of a Mini Cooper S. I think I said even in the last one or two live streams, I wish I had gone for a Fiesta ST and experienced those when they were newer. Now they're a little too old that I'm not sure I would personally I like CarPlay and stuff. I think maybe they had CarPlay in the last year or two of those, but anyway. Yeah, Fiesta ST is a great choice. Luke says last year for the WRX hatch was 2014. Wonder if that would be a good vehicle for him. I just don't love the reliability of those old WRXs. I mean, especially if you do any mods whatsoever. But even stock, I mean, a lot of stock Subarus, you got to replace head gaskets around 100,000 miles and all kinds of other crap. It's just, don't love it. So I mean, Subaru, they love to brag about how so many of their vehicles are still on the road. I think most of it's because people just pay to keep them on the road. I mean, some of them do better than others, but a lot of my dad, but the past couple of Subarus he's had is once you hit 100,000 miles, it's well, you got to do a bunch of engine work and all this stuff, and they'll keep going after that. But you got to put money into them, and so it's something you don't have to do with the Hondas and the Toyotas typically. So I don't love long-term Subaru reliability, honestly. Dom says, thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Sedans and autos are fine too. I'll send a message. Thanks, Dom. And yeah, absolutely. And I'll do a little more digging now that I know that's something you're looking for. I'll kind of look in that price range a little bit more and see if I can come up with any better recommendations as well. Austin says I did a double take when I saw Lucid stock price the other day. It's down like $2 to $2 a share. Doesn't bode well. Interesting. I really prefer Lucid styling to Tesla. I wonder if Apple will try to buy them. I mean, if it's $2 a share, yeah, Apple could pick them up like just for kicks. I mean, that's wow. I didn't realize. I mean, I'm not a stock advisor. This is not financial advice, but I feel like $2 a share for Lucid is not. I haven't been following the stock market recently. I used to follow it closer, but that's got me tempted just to like buy Lucid stock. It's $2 a share. I don't think you could really be burned by that. Again, not professional financial advice, but yeah, I mean, they cannot get down to penny stock. There is no way. Yeah, especially. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, some people maybe think that now that Elon is basically vice president, that he's going to, like that's going to boost Tesla to new heights or something. I don't know what the Kool-Aid drinkers are saying over on the Tesla, fan side, but I think Lucid is a really good car. They have some top-notch efficiency with their motors, top-notch vehicles in a lot of ways. They do CarPlay. They caved on that, and I don't know. I mean, I would definitely rather have a Lucid over a Tesla for every segment they compete in my opinion. But yeah, thanks for putting that on my radar. I may actually go buy Lucid stock tomorrow. I don't know. I don't own any of the, stock of any car company because I don't want it to be like a conflict of interest and feel like I'm boosting the stock price by saying good things about a car. But I don't review Lucid, so it's kind of a non-conflict of interest there. I may pick up some Lucid stock. Interesting. Anyway, Kyle says my dealer has around 8 to 10 2023 Ioniq 6 models discounted 15 grand off. Wow, that's interesting. There's some 23s out there. I've only seen 24s around here. Man, the lease deal on a 23 must be even better than a 24. 24s for the base standard range SE. It's like still I think like 159 or 169 a month. It's like 3 or 4 grand down, but that's a really good buy. It's like almost a free car, honestly. Like when you do the math on the lease deals on that, that's crazy. Phil, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, when will you turn on to the back road and see how it does? I won't be doing it live, unfortunately, but there will be 3 reviews coming this week, actually, all EVs. So bad news if you're an EV hater, but I will be doing all of the Ultium stuff. Got Lyric on Monday, maybe Tuesday, depending on how quickly I can edit, because that's going to be probably a longer one. Lyric, then ZDX Type S, and then Prologue. So doing all 3 on that kind of platform there. And I'll be turning onto the back road and all 3 to see how they do. And I've actually there's some surprises in all 3 videos as far as my take on them, I think. So stay tuned for that. And also some stuff that I think others just weren't saying that I think needed to be said. So again, stay tuned for my blunt, honest thoughts. I always tell it like it is. And anyway, thank you again for the super chat there. And let me see. All right. And Austin says, Matt, did you hear Bose bought MacIntosh? I hadn't heard that. I guess they want a gateway into ultra high-end car audio. I just hope they don't dilute the brand legacy too much. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, this is the first I've heard of that, so I need a minute to digest that. Yeah, I mean, to me, and maybe some people, I know Bose kind of, with a lot of the GM stuff in the like mid-2000s, probably kind of dragged them through the mud a little bit as far as the reputation, because I think like the Bose system in like a C6 Corvette is like not good. But I think Bose, I mean, they make really good stereos. All the Boses and all the Hondas and stuff are really good. I think Bose is probably trying to compete because just like the giant conglomerate you have with, what is the name of the overarching company that owns like everything? They own JBL, they own, like most of the audio brands you see are owned by one giant conglomerate. I can't remember the name of the conglomerate for whatever reason it is, but regardless, Bose is probably trying to compete with that because otherwise they're just going to get just destroyed, because it's like, all these other high-end ones have to band together, because Bose is doing pretty good stuff, but I don't think they can survive on their own without, more implementation in cars. So I think that's a smart move. And I think Bose has a very storied history as well, of very high-end stuff and, very high-tech pioneering stuff, kind of like MacIntosh as well. And I think it seems to me like a very natural marriage of the 2 brands there. And I'm sure Bose will hopefully be respectful of that, because again, that cachet and that prestige of MacIntosh, I think is obviously what they bought it for, to elevate beyond even Bose. And so I think that's probably going to be great. And if we see more MacIntosh in other vehicles, that's also great too, in my opinion. I love good sounding stereos, so the more of them out there, that's great. And the MacIntosh stereos in the Wagoneers and stuff are really good. I'm curious to see if Stellantis uses them a little bit more in the future here. And Luke, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, I've had vehicles all shapes and sizes, luxury sedan, Civic Si 2015, a RAV4. I had a Nissan Frontier. The only thing I've not had, hatchback or coupe. Interesting. Well, it comes down to, what your preferences are. If that's something you'd like to scratch that itch someday, go for it. I think it's, both are fun. Obviously, it comes down to your lifestyle and all that. But hatchbacks are so good from a practicality standpoint. Coupes, some of them are better than you might expect as well. So it's interesting. And thank you again, Luke, for the super chat. Let me see other member questions here. So where were we? Car says, I just learned something about inflation and car prices that I'd overlooked until recently. The 99 base F-150 was originally $19,205, which equals $36,898 in today's dollars. Now a base 2025 F-150 is $39,000. So it's, there's a little bit of an increase there. And I can't remember, someone else just talked about this not too long ago, that some vehicle, I think it's like the Civic. I think if you actually compare and do the proper inflation calculations, Civic is actually cheaper than it was in the 90s, something like that, because a lot of people complain about Civic pricing, but it's I don't know if it's exactly Civic, so don't quote me on that, but it's something like that, where it's a lot of these vehicles are actually cheaper. And even if with F-150's standpoint there, you have it being about $2,500 more than it was, comparably speaking, in 99, and look at what you get for $2,500 more. Not only is it a bigger vehicle, more powerful, more fuel efficient, you have all the safety tech, all the screens, all the extra stuff versus a basic radio in an F-150, in a base F-150. You might not even have had FM. I mean, maybe it's an AM, FM at that point, but certainly no CD player or anything in 99 so you're basically getting a radio. That's it. And so this is, it's hard because it's just an adjustment because it happened so fast in 2022 with inflation. Instead of it gradually happening and slowly boiling the frog, we instead just threw the frog into scalding hot water and everyone has the shock of inflation. But it's, you compare the actual numbers. Again, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, wages haven't kept up. In some cases, they have. It seems like wages are now starting to catch up better, and wages have kept up with inflation. Unfortunately, I'm not experiencing that, but I know a lot of other people, hopefully, thankfully, are. But that's interesting. It is very important to keep historical context, but for a lot of people that doesn't matter because there's other bills these days too. Everyone has cell phones. Most people in 99 didn't have cell phones yet, or if they did, they were way cheaper. For your monthly, you didn't have to have data, and you didn't have to upgrade every 2 years or whatever. It's just there's other things these days we got to pay for. But absolutely, it's the cars have kind of held the line very reasonably, despite what the feelings are, how it feels. But Car says, similar with Toyota, 99 base Camry was 19,444, and that equals 37,357 in today's dollars. With a base 2025 Camry is now 29. With inflation, today's prices are far better for the Camry with much better features. Sorry, I didn't read the next question there. You said basically everything I just said in a far more concise manner. Absolutely, totally agree. It's great, and I wish more people did those kinds of little bits of research before they complained. Trenton Cargas says, I prefer Hondas to Nissans. I do as well, typically speaking, but I mean, Nissan does some really good stuff recently. I've been so impressed with the most recent Nissans I've been in. I'll be driving Armada and Murano here in the not too distant future. And, those I'm sure will be pretty good as well. But I just did the Sentra not too long ago. There's some really good stuff that they have currently, especially at those lower price tags. It's impressive. Let me see. Another super chat. Thank you so much. C2 actually came in. Sorry, I missed yours, Jordan, as well. Jordan says, first company/vehicle with adaptive cruise. Man, you're killing me with the trivia tonight. I wish I had good answers for you. first company with adaptive cruise, I believe, was Mercedes. I think Distronic was the first on the market, at least as far as mass market vehicles. And I believe that was on S-Class in like 97, I think. Maybe I didn't win bingo for that one tonight, but I'm pretty sure that was the earliest application of that. Someone can fact check me, but I think it was Mercedes, and I think it was S-Class in the late 90s. Thank you for the super chat, Jordan. Someone let me know how I did. I see Veslin agrees on the Mercedes thing at least. And Ryan, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, I'm thinking about buying a Honda Ridgeline. What are your thoughts on it? I love the Ridgeline. My best friend has a Ridgeline and really loves it. He's had it for many years now. He's crisscrossed the country 2 or 3 times with it now. And he really loves his. He has, the second gen, current gen version. And Zachary, he fact checked me. Mercedes with Distronic in 99. I was 2 years off, but I was close. Thank you so much, Zachary, for the fact check there. But yeah, so Ridgeline is great though, Ryan. I absolutely love Ridgeline. I've reviewed it a few times. If you haven't seen those videos, definitely check them out. I just actually revisited it this year with the slight little tweaks it got. I really love it. I wish that they had done more for 2024 because they do have better stuff in the parts bin than what they put in Ridgeline. Look what we see on the new Passport. I guess we'll have to wait for a new gen Ridgeline, which hopefully will be coming in a year or two. But in the meantime, so that might be something to keep in mind if you're not in a hurry and you do like having the newest thing and the most impressive stuff. I would, wait for the new gen Ridgeline, which certainly has to be a year or two away. But if you like the proven stuff of, the current one, and you like the current packaging and all that, Ridgeline is great. I've always said, and a lot of journalists say this, auto journalists, that Ridgeline is the truck that most truck buyers should have, but can't bring themselves to buy because they must have body on frame for some reason, even though most of them don't actually tow, most don't actually go off road. And for the real daily driving that most people do, going back and forth to work on paved roads, Ridgeline is far better at that job and far better as a family vehicle. There's more space in the back of a Ridgeline than mid-size trucks for sure. Full size obviously have a lot more space, but Ridgeline kind of is this nice middle ground of you don't have to have your knees, crunched into your chest like every other, mid-sized truck out there that, is forced to stick to this, different packaging with the body on frame thing. Ridgeline is fantastic. If someone said you must have a truck bed, I would have a Ridgeline. So that's my take on it. And yeah, if you'd like more info on Ridgeline or anything, definitely check out those videos. Send me a message. More than happy to give you more info. And if there's anything else you're considering as well, I can, more than happy to do any kind of comparison you'd like. And talk through it with you there, Ryan. But thank you so much for the super chat. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. And Austin, thanks so much for being a member for 11 months now. I really appreciate it. He says, Matt, I really want that Giorgio Armani 500e. Well, I'm sure Fiat is overjoyed to hear you say that. So absolutely. I think wait it out a few months if you're not in a hurry. You could probably get one for a nice discount. I'm really hoping they start discounting 500Es here to move them, especially if they're trying to, with the leasing, do that before that loophole gets closed. I'm thinking we may see some killer lease deals for 500E for December. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I would think they got to see the writing on the wall and be like, okay, well, this credit's probably going to go away. And then these things are really going to be hard to sell. So we better clear out this inventory. Desperate. Like I'm waiting for $99 leases with $1 or $2 grand down. I don't know if they'll get that desperate, but that's what would get me out of my chair and be like, maybe I actually would just pick one of these up for a little golf cart, just run around and just to do airport runs in or something. Again, as a second car, since I don't have a second car now. And again, most of the time I have press cars, but it just would be nice to have a backup car. So we're not a one car household in the event I don't have a press vehicle. But so I know also that you've been considering 500E as well. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for both of us that we get some killer lease deals. Obviously that wouldn't kick in time for the Armani edition there, but if you're open to regular 500E, I'm hoping that they get desperate. They got to get desperate because they're still piling up on lots and they're not moving, I don't think. And they're not super competitive at that price. So they got to get the price lower. They got to get it less than Ioniq 6. Again, Ioniq 6, $159 a month. There's no world where I'm paying Ioniq 6 money for a 500E. But if it gets less than that, then a good bit less, then yeah, I could potentially even consider one myself. And thank you, Austin, again for the support for 11 months now. All right, you're gonna get caught up here. We got about 20 more minutes to go here for the live stream. I promise I'm gonna get caught up on the member questions. So let me see. Try and find my spot here. So Austin says, Nissan always seemed like the least impressive Japanese manufacturer to me. I mean, they've definitely been lower. You know, I think in the 90s, they were pretty close to being on even ground with some of the others out there. And they had some really impressive stuff, you know, performance-wise in the 90s and all that too. And actually, speaking of Nissan and fun 90s Nissans, in my WRX-TS review, keep an eye out whenever I'm on the back road, because I come up upon a 300ZX that's like really mint, like stock, pristine. And I even mentioned in the video, like, oh, and by the way, random, but there's a 300ZX in front of us. It's super cool to see because I don't see those very often. And so, but anyway, yeah, I agree with you there, Austin. It's these days, Nissan doesn't have the esteem that the other Japanese brands do for sure. Omar says, what's your opinion on the best Chevy Silverado trim bang for your buck 2025 model year? I would have to look at them. I'm not that familiar with Silverado trim structure to know what is the best bang for your buck. It also just really comes down to your priorities, you know, and what is important to you. But I mean, I can say certainly don't go for the highest trims. Obviously, that's not going to be the best bang for your buck. And I don't know, again, I would have to look at the trim structure to say definitively. And again, if you're curious to hear my thoughts on that, definitely send me a message, Omar. I'm more than happy to look into that and talk through that with you. But what I can say is base model trucks are really, they all have touchscreens. They all have all the safety stuff now as standard. I think most of them, maybe Chevy doesn't throw in cruise control yet for base Silverado, but adaptive cruise is standard, and most of that stuff are very low trims. And so I think what I've seen, in the car world in general is that the base trims, because they always keep jamming more standard equipment in them every single year, like people don't like, thinking about base models in a lot of cases. But like if you can find one low trims, base or very, close to base, probably it's still going to be your best bang for your buck, because again, you're getting a full-size truck for base, money that still has all your basic needs. So I honestly, that's probably what I would say, again, without doing more research. Hopefully that helps you a little bit more, but again, feel free to send me a message for sure. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat as well. He says, does IIHS test safety tech or just crash durability? They also do safety tech. Yeah, that's something they added, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. So they test headlights as well as testing the night and the day performance of the automatic emergency braking systems. So they do like a few different simulated things where they have like a little inflatable like guy that walks out in front of the road at night and even pops out of like a wall. So it's like a surprise thing, and how fast the cars react to that. And they do judge cars. And I don't know if that's a requirement to get a top safety pick, but it is certainly something that weighs into their recommendations for vehicles. And again, they do that in the daytime. They also have a thing where, it's like the automatic emergency braking working with not just pedestrians, but also with cars. And they'll have an inflatable car there that, they come up on, and they, test, does it stop in time? Does it rear-ended? How hard does it rear-end the inflatable? All that kind of stuff they do test as well, which is obviously very important. And they have seen recently, I just saw in the past week or two, that a lot of these brand new, like 2024, 2025 systems are getting better with the adaptive cruise of doing less false alerts and actually stopping with more precision and in time, which is something that a lot of these systems in the past were a little more glitchy, and we're like, we'll try and stop, we'll slow you down. And a lot of these are like doing a really good job. So they're getting a lot better with that as these companies, continue to work on that stuff, which by the way, is something that all these companies agreed to voluntarily and had this agreement. They're like, hey, we're going to put this stuff in our cars. It's going to make cars safer. And there was no government intervention there. They're just like, all these companies came together and said, this is something that we think should be a nice improvement that needs to happen. And they all, bound together and made that happen, which is great to see that kind of unity in the industry. And I think you're going to see more of that here as we go into this new administration of companies being like, okay, we need stability. So if we can't count on the administrations of the U.S. government and from other governments elsewhere in the world, that are also many in transition phases and trying to figure out whether they want to go to one side or the other. Car companies are going to start doing more of this, of being like, what do we want to do from an emissions standpoint? What are our goals going to be? Do we just follow California and ignore everything else? And even if California doesn't have authority anymore, California can say, hey, we think you should do this, and everyone just latches onto that or whatever. I think there's gonna be a lot more of just companies doing those types of things, of being like, we need stability, let's all just agree on something together, since we can't count on anybody else to help us with that. So I think there might be more of that, but I think that's a great example of that, and it's great that we see that extra safety now as a result. Less people getting rear-ended, less deadlier and more injury prone accidents than we've had in the past, which is great. All right, and let me see. Good Stick says, why do a lot of American car manufacturers always pull out of foreign markets? This includes places like Japan, India, East Asia. Is it because they can't sell compelling cars to these markets? Absolutely. That is exactly the problem. A lot of these brands, I mean, look at how obviously Americans were very resistant to the Japanese and German vehicles and all these other vehicles for a long time, and then they finally broke through because the American brands admittedly were just not very good at that point in time. We're talking 70s, 1970s into the 1980s. Some of the lowest points of American car manufacturing from a quality standpoint, from a performance standpoint. Again, there was some emission stuff that was causing some of the performance stuff, but the quality just wasn't there. And then you have these things that are like, hey, by the way, you don't have to have a vehicle that needs to be traded in 3 years or 6 years. Like the average lifespan of a vehicle grew exponentially. And so actually I was reading a story. I think Motor One did an article this past week about, there was a Chevy Cavalier that was sold in Japan as the Toyota Cavalier, and it was a goodwill gesture. This is really fun. Definitely read the article on Motor One if you're curious. It was a goodwill gesture that Toyota did, because they were destroying the market in America so much, not destroying in a bad sense, but they were just dominating with Toyota, that they actually made this agreement with Chevy, like, okay, we'll give the Cavalier a chance in Japan. And they actually tried. Like, they converted to right-hand drive. They even made a sportier version to appeal to Japanese buyers a little bit more. And the marketing is really funny. I won't regurgitate everything in the article, because again, I'm trying to be brief here. But they sold it over there, and it did terribly because Japanese buyers are like, why would I go for this American thing? I'm sure a few people wanted to be different, but everyone's like, the Japanese stuff's way better. So it's just consumers figure out what is the best value, what is the best thing from a reliability standpoint. This is why they sell 400,000 RAV4s every year, because people figure it out. It's a solid little car that'll run forever. And that's what a lot of people want, and they don't want to have to worry. A lot of people, they don't like car shopping. They don't like thinking about a car at all. They want to get in the thing, hit the go button, and have it take them from point A to point B, and that's it. And so RAV4 does that perfectly. And that's why it's the top selling vehicle outside of the F-150. So that's the bottom line there. It's just, not being compelling. Good Stick says they refuse to make small, cheap cars. No, I mean, I think, yeah, they tried. GM has a bunch of small stuff. Then you look in like the Asian markets and stuff, there's a bunch of things that they have tried, and they do custom build stuff. Like China loves huge back seats, and this is why we have still Lincoln sedans with giant back seats over there, and every other vehicle has a long wheelbase version in China specifically for the Chinese market. They cater to those markets as best they can. Just still a lot of times just does not beat the domestic stuff, especially China is for sure right now with the way they're EV tech is, so far ahead of ours in a lot of ways. But it's tough to compete, And Trent Car Guy also says, though, to be fair, my ownership experience with Nissan wasn't the best. Had a 2013 Sentra with that crappy CVT. Yeah, that was a low point in Nissan. That really hurt their brand image, that CVT and just the quality of a lot of those Nissans in that time period. Trent Car Guy is the same with Toyota. Had a Corolla with a crap manual transmission. I hadn't heard about any complaints about the manuals and the Corollas in the past for those older gens. That's interesting. I see Matt R is saying hello. Thanks for stopping by, Matt. He says American companies quitting car production was a stupid decision. Make something under 30 grand. Yeah, it is unfortunate that Ford, in Europe has pulled the Fiesta and the Focus, and even here in the States, I wish they would have kept that stuff around or brought it back. But Ford especially is going to do what Ford's going to do. I won't go down that rabbit hole either. But let me see. I see Matt R suggesting GTI as far as other fun vehicles. They're 30 to 35 grand. The thing about GTI that always keeps me out of recommending them is the fact that they don't have the same long-term reliability as the Japanese stuff. Again, going back to that quality. Some people get lucky with them. Other people, there's running jokes about GTIs being like, oh, if you don't have at least one light on the dashboard, you're not a real GTI owner. It's like there's a lot of those kind of jokes I've seen online. I don't love the shifter in GTIs. I think the shifter is kind of annoying the way it kind of like dips down for reverse. So every time you like put any downward pressure on the shifter, the whole thing like bounces around. And I don't know. I do enjoy GTI. I enjoyed my week with one. It's just in that case, there's I think just better competitors that I like better. Again, everyone likes something different. Test drive a GTI, absolutely. For anyone who's looking in that segment there, GTI could be fun, especially if you're not going to keep it for a super long period of time. But yeah, not the best in my opinion, especially the way the DSG is programmed now to really hypermile. I complained about that so much in my Golf R week with video that I posted, I think last year. Just way too boring with the transmission tuning anymore. You have to be in sport mode or manually shift, the Golf R in order to have a fun driving vehicle. It's crazy. Otherwise, it's a complete snooze fest the way they hypermile with that programming. And TFI says, me and Matt with the 3-cylinder hatchbacks. Absolutely. You got that Mirage still running strong, I'm sure. And let me see. Dylan says, how would you counter burnout? Sorry, car hobby is getting tougher to stay interested in. So as far as burnouts with just in general, typically it would just be take a break, find something that is more enjoyable. Because burnout by definition is because you're just too into that one thing, or that one thing is just bumming you out. So I would say I see Matt R says the counter with burnouts, which touche. I know a lot of people. I'm going to talk about this more in my end of the year video when I discuss kind of the future of the weekly updates and stuff. But I think that's kind of part of the problem with views on automotive content in general, at least mine and some of the others I've seen out there. It's just less and less people interested in cars because they don't like the way cars are going, and it makes it tough. And so like anything, if it's not serving you, if that is not an enjoyable hobby anymore, or if there's certain parts of it that are enjoyable, then enjoy those parts. If if you just love the stuff that came out in the 2010s, buy stuff that came out in the 2010s, stick with that stuff, ignore the new stuff, and enjoy the stuff that is around that you do know you like, and just stick to that. There's more than enough supply of everything that's been made in the past 100 years. Buy it, enjoy it, drive it, and ignore the new stuff if that's what helps you to keep enjoying the hobby. If you want to stick with cars, absolutely. No one's taking away your gas powered used stuff. That's not gonna happen for a long time, decades and decades. So there's no worries there. Just enjoy it, and blank out the rest, I'd say, is probably the best way as far as the car hobby in particular. Let me see. Also, Matt R says Jason Statham should be a Bond villain. That'd be cool. I think Jason Statham's just so overdone. He's just in everything. I love Jason Statham. I got a bunch of those movies up there on that shelf. But I just feel like it would be a little too much of an easy choice. I think Bond always tries to be a little bit more like a lot of people you're not super familiar with here in the States, or people that are not super mainstream. Even Daniel Craig was kind of an unknown. He was in like a Layer Cake and a few other movies, but kind of an unknown. And I think they like kind of, because then you can come into it without any kind of preconceived like notions. You can have that suspension of disbelief easier, because it's like, oh, I don't know who this person is. They might actually be genuinely this creepy, and like it kind of, you go into it a little bit more deeper, I think, than approaching whatever Jason Statham movie and be like, oh, okay, like you already have an idea in your head. And I think with Bond, they like giving you a fresher slate and a clean slate to work with, to give you that better immersion, in my opinion, at least. Let me see. Vishal says new Tiguan is shockingly nice. Weirdly seems nicer inside than the new X3. But yeah, I don't love the new X3. It's kind of weird. So yeah, I think for me, it'd be Tiguan over an X3, especially because of the savings you get too. But let me see. I see Austin's agreeing about Jason Statham. And Small Cookie says, how about Idris Elba being the new Bond? I would love that. And that rumor floated around for a while. But then he himself said that's not happening. He's like, I don't want to be that. He's also older. And with Bond, it's usually like a 10-year or more commitment. And I mean, there's been older Bonds before, so that's not something that would disqualify him. But I think for him, you know, again, it typecast you as well. I mean, I think again, he has enough of a movie career already to stand, you know, without having to worry about, you know, anyone being like, oh, well, you're just Bonds, we can't hire you in anything else. But I mean, even like, you know, Daniel Craig, I mean, he's really been, you know, taking all these other different jobs to try to, you know, really branch out of the Bond thing. And I think he's doing a really good job with like Knives Out, for example. But it's tough. But I think Idris Elba, it's also, you know, I think some people were just talking about like, you know, the race thing. Unfortunately, he doesn't want to be, you know, everyone's, you know, target. Because of the traditionalists that, you know, it's always been a white guy. And again, I'm not going to go into race stuff, but I think that was one of the justifications he said for why he didn't want to do it. He doesn't want to, you know, put himself in the crossfire for that. And I don't blame him for that for sure, because, you know, again, we see how people deal with change, and people don't deal with change very well. So I'll just leave it at that. I would love I think he'd be a phenomenal Bond, though. I love Idris Elba. He is fantastic. He is actually if you remember, he was actually in the Mach-E, the first Mach-E commercials had Idris Elba in it. Another commercial, which, by the way, people really hated whenever it first came out. Myself, I actually didn't like it either, because it was really leaning heavily on the Mustang thing. But he kind of was like, okay, well, Idris Elba's, you know, kind of making me like the Mach-E a little bit here early on, because he can sell some stuff too. So I mean, he could sell Bond to a T if he absolutely wanted to. But yeah, awesome guy, it seems. And let me see. Chad says, could Bond make a Mirage look cool? Absolutely. You know, he'd take off a jump or something and make it amazing. Good Stick says, I can't wait for Bond to give Chase in a Cybertruck. Oh man, that's that's a really upsetting idea. Unless they turn it into a joke, I would not enjoy that. That'd be funny. That thought never crossed my mind. Man, hope that does not happen. Good Stick also says, I can see Roger Moore doing that. Absolutely. Matt says, Ford should make a Fox body version of the Mustang again. That would be great. I mean, especially we see, you know, Dodge bring back the Charger with the hatch. I think having a hatch version of the Mustang, especially with the amount of people that love Fox body, absolutely. I was kind of expecting that with S650. I thought that maybe if they wanted to spend a little more money, they could have re-engineered that platform and, you know, not done the same basic body stampings for, you know, at least some of the core chassis stuff, and done a little bit more to open that up and make it a hatch. I think that was a huge missed opportunity for them. And I hope that maybe we see that someday. We'll see what ends up happening with Mustang. I think what you will see is probably the first instance of that, potentially with a new five-door, as the Europeans call it, you know, a new Mustang sedan that maybe, you know, has like an A5 Sportback kind of deal, where you have that kind of a hatch. I think that's probably where you will see that first. Maybe they won't do it for that. I don't know, but that would be my hunch, is that'll get it first, and then maybe we see it trickle down to the regular two-door down the road. Yeah, and let me see. Matt says, modern power for a four-cylinder turbo is there. Reliability won't be for the Lexus there with the 7-passenger SUV. I mean, the reliability, I mean, I haven't seen any long mileage stuff for the new turbo 4-cylinder Toyota. But I mean, Toyota knows people expect reliability out of them, so I wouldn't bat an eye at that. And the thing with the TX, if you really are nervous about that motor, then you go for the plug-in hybrid one, because that one still has the old Lexus V6 with the plug-in hybrid components, which Toyota's also been doing for 25 years now or whatever. So, I mean, it's more expensive, but if you are paranoid and you want a TX, just go for the TX 550, absolutely, which I loved. I know, again, a vehicle that very few people probably can even find on dealer lots, but if you can, I think that's definitely the way to go there. Yeah, Raphael says, yeah, Camry TRD, 35,000 miles, nice. Let me see. I see Matt asking about the A5 there. And then Veslin says, much better car in terms of chassis and tech for sure than IS, but I'm missing something. Gotcha. Yeah, no, I totally get it. So yeah, I hope we give the IS a try. I think that'd be worth trying. All right, let me see. I think we're getting caught up here. Matt says, okay, Matt, getting a mail order bride now. I mean, you know, yeah, I think living without regrets is important within reason. You know, don't anyone go out and do anything stupid. Yeah, within responsible actions. I agree with yeah, not having regrets if you can avoid it. And Matt agrees about Fiesta being a way better choice than the Mini. Yeah, I think it would have been a better choice, especially with the R56. I went with for the Mini. Although from a content standpoint, as I think I said in the last live stream, that Mini was a gold mine. I could have milked that thing for every time I was stranded on the side of the road. Would have been a huge, video, and would have been great. And I should have I was just too busy at that point in my life to have the luxury of being like, whoops, my car won't start. This is fun. Let's make a video. Like I needed to get places, and it was my only car. But if I could do it all over again, I wish I would have kept the Mini and milked it for every penny that thing was worth. As far as the misery it would have inflicted on me on camera would have been gold. So I definitely played that one wrong. And Goodstick says, Toyota and Subaru are recalling all the engines on the GR86 and BRZ as they are breaking. I hadn't heard that. I will have to look into that. That is surprising. Not unheard of. The Shelby GT350 kind of did a similar thing. But I mean, I know people that really drive their GR86s hard on track and they're fine. So they're not all breaking. Definitely not all. It's a very tiny amount of people that gets overblown by, social media, because negativity is, what gets all the clicks. But no, GR86 and BRZ are pretty reliable. Even if you do track it. Again, like I mentioned, I gave a shout out to my buddy Rev Match TV, Eric. He tracks his in the GR86 like club series, not the actual cup car. He doesn't have a cup car, but he has the regular GR86, and he does regular track days, and that thing drives super hard, no issues. And all the people in his group, no issues. So, again, take some of that stuff with a grain of salt. Make sure that you're recognizing how many of these cars are out there in the world. How many am I hearing about? And then do the math. What is that percentage? And that tells you what is the real problem here. Is it just a few very loud people, or is this an actually large percentage of cars? And the fact is most of these things are not a large percentage of cars. Matt says Lucid and Rivian should merge. Honestly, they could complement each other pretty well, I think. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think they both kind of have their own things. I think they're happy to kind of just be separate for now, but who knows? Anything's possible. TFI says, imagine turning onto a back road after Indian food, giving it all the gas. As far as the parts, absolutely. And Veslin says A5 is a better car, just modern cars engineered out all the fun of that of the cars. That's my problem. I want to feel something, I guess, and want the car to feel more special. Yeah, I mean, in that way, anything newer is going to be safer. It's going to be easier to manage for the most part, generally speaking. And yeah, so the more especially everything, being electric power steering these days and stuff, yeah, you're going to feel more just through the steering if you go for something with a hydraulic rack, for example, and other things like that. But like, that's the thing. IS, I believe, still has hydraulic rack. And so those types of things are things that will be a key difference to give you that extra feeling that you're looking for. Just go backwards, either with a new model vehicle that's dated, or go on the used market if you want to feel that. Absolutely. There's a lot of fun stuff out there, And Matt says Lucid interior is nice but quirky. The front and back are opposite colors. Yeah, I really need to review a Lucid. It'll probably get like 5 views, but I'm curious for myself. They reached out and offered me an Air a couple of years ago, and I said no because I was like, no one's gonna watch it. But now I'm just like selfishly wanting to try one out at least once. So I might try and reconnect with Lucid here and see if I can get one at some point. Let me see. Matt says MacIntosh. Yeah, I know I probably mispronounced it like many other things. Veslin says, for me, EV makes sense only for town driving, kids, supermarkets. Expensive EVs don't make sense to me. Yeah, it all comes down to your use case for sure. Matt says JBL is Harman Kardon. That's it. Harman Kardon is the giant conglomerate. Absolutely. He says Bose blows. I don't agree. I mean, at least the newest Bose stuff. I'm not sure how many Bose things you've sampled, Matt, but I actually am struggling to think of a new car in the 2024 model year here with a Bose stereo that I didn't like. I liked every single one of them. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess everyone's different, I suppose. I see TFI says no highs, no lows, must be Bose. I mean, I'm no audiophile, but just the immersion, the clarity, I don't know. Bose always does a really good job for me. I mean, I guess that's an unpopular opinion. Unpopular opinion these days. I love Bose. I have Bose noise canceling headphones. I use those every single time I fly on a plane. It's so nice. And yeah, I'm a Bose fan, I guess. But Good Stick says Tesla are presenting robo taxis in Tesla stores nationwide. Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious to see how those test drives go. I didn't think there was that many actually on the streets yet, but that's interesting. Thanks for the info on that. Vancy says, how come interior camera side mirrors are available on semi trucks in the US but not legal for passenger cars? I think it's just that the laws are different for commercial vehicles than they are for consumer vehicles. I could be wrong. I didn't actually know though that semis had camera side mirrors here in the States. It's interesting. I'm learning new stuff every live stream. I appreciate that. That's cool. But yeah, I think with it just our laws here, it's the same as why we can't get the cool headlights here that Europe gets, because it's just like we have these archaic laws that, you know, we can't get lawmakers to give us the time of the day to improve these things, and so we're stuck with 1970s laws for all this crap that's it's just so outdated. And Matt says, as a car audio person, I have to talk crap about Bose. They're too scared to play in the aftermarket. Interesting. Yeah, I think Bose is almost like an Apple situation where they very much like having the control and knowing how their stuff will be implemented and have that walled garden almost. I think that's part of why. But yeah, I can understand the frustrations there. And Veslin says Bose producing low to mid-range systems for cars, so they sound okay for the price. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Even like Mazda is really smart with the way their Bose system doesn't have any speakers in the bottoms of the doors, because they say that adds extra rattling and stuff. So instead, they put speakers in the like firewall, like base of the A-pillar kind of area down by the footwell. And it's super clean. You crank up the bass in a Mazda, pick any Mazda, because they all do it for these new ones. Any modern Mazda, blast it to as far as you can go before your ears hurt. It's going to be super clean. There's no the door rattle crap you hear and a lot of other stuff whenever you really push them. It's Mazda's doing it very smartly, and again, they're doing it with Bose. So I don't know, but clearly I'm outnumbered here on the Bose argument, so I will drop it. But that's interesting. Yeah, again, I'm not an audiophile, so don't take what I say for any kind of worth. Austin says home audio wise, Bose was decent in the 80s. They kind of fell off after that, other than the noise canceling tech. Gotcha. And Matt says Ranger's greater than Ridgeline. Depends on what you need, but I wouldn't agree as far as at least regular daily driver. But let me see. We're almost caught up here. Kendall says, big fan, bro. Watched you growing up when I was 18. Now I'm 26. You're great, bro. Keep doing what you do. I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Kendall. I don't know if you're still around. I know people have probably been dropping off here as we've reached the 2-hour mark. But I really appreciate that. And thanks so much for all the years of support. Let me see. So I see the more of the LiDAR discussion there. Let me see. Zachary says, as far as LiDAR, probably NASA or the military as well. Nissan Mitsubishi at the bottom for Matt. As far as Japanese, I agree. Let me see. Steven's asking, did I ever experience a recall issue? If so, how did it go? There's actually a recall on the Mach-E we just did. I'll be talking about it in my 2-year update, which is very overdue, but it's because I'm waiting on new tires from a sponsor. But anyway, yeah, we just brought it in for a software update, and it was all good, pretty painless. Just took like an hour and a half or something, and it was all good to go. And also Beth's Mercedes, her last Mercedes she had a few years ago, had a recall where it was one of those recalls where it was like, do not park in the garage because your car could catch on fire, which no one likes reporting on for gas-powered vehicles. It's only when the EVs do that they get the press. But a lot of gas cars have that recall as well, that her Mercedes did, and it was just a fuel line thing that could screw up, and if the car is warm, could light on fire. And we took it in, and they swapped the part, and all was good. So yeah, recalls are nothing to be scared of. Not a big deal usually. Let me see. Jordan says, awesome live tonight, Matt. I appreciate that, Jordan. And yeah, we will wrap it up here. Last few questions here from members, and I will sign off. So Austin says, speaking of Fiat, I just checked their website. It looks like 500X models are being discontinued and discounted 20% off MSRP. Yeah, they're showing the 2023s on their site. I saw the other day as well. Yeah, 20% off. So we'll see what they do with 500E. But Dorian says, Volkswagen Jetta GLI, no one talks about, but it's such a cool car. They are really fun. Quality, though, on the interior isn't as good as Civic, so that's one of my problems with that. It's also... it is really good. There is a certain niche, depending on what you're looking for, where GLI absolutely wins in a competitive segment. But then there's some times where GLI, to me, just doesn't have the same driving feel as Civic Si. Steering isn't as good in the GLI. Throttle response isn't as good. There's a little bit more rev hang in the manual. And it's a little sloppier with the handling compared to Civic Si, in my opinion. Still a great car, and if you want to have a little bit more power and you're tired that the Si doesn't get more power, GLI is your answer. And if you want to have cooled seats, you want to have the creature comforts, GLI is the way to go. There is absolutely a case to be made for GLI. And funny enough, I will be getting a GLI press vehicle here this week, and I'll be living with it and doing an updated review here on the 2025s here that'll be posted actually fairly soon, because I know that's a car that most of you probably would be a little bit interested in. So that was jumping the backlog here to the front of the line. That'll be going live here in early December. So stay tuned for a Jetta GLI on my thoughts on the refresh there. Austin says S650 is phoned in. I agree. Good Stick says, I sometimes mistake an S650 for an S550. It already looked a little boring, as we've already been seeing the design for 10 years. Yeah, I wish they would have done more for sure. And B. Mitchell said he had a Fox body when they were late model used cars. You don't want to go back. The S550 is so much better. I agree, but for some people, again, it's just the more raw, the better. And Fox body is certainly raw. So Good Stick saying good night here. And Austin says proportions of S550 are a lot better than S650 in my opinion. I can agree to that as well. Yeah. And I see Jordan saying awesome live. Love the Puma jacket. Looking online now to purchase. Yeah, I don't know. I think Beth got this for me as a gift a couple of years ago. But yeah, they're super comfy and I like them. So glad you like it, Jordan. Dorian says Bose Porsche and Bose Mazda both are really good. Okay, so glad someone else likes some of the Bose there. Scott says, I got a Veloster N. Your review had a lot to do with my purchase. That's awesome. I'm happy the video helped you. Hope you're still enjoying it. Another very underappreciated car. I think it's sad that they don't make those anymore. But glad you got one. Glad you're enjoying it. And Cam says, hi, Matt. I know you're about to end, but wanted to at least say hi. Thanks for stopping by, Cam. Hope you're doing well and appreciate the hello. Chad says, where'd you get it? I think Beth might have gotten it. I don't know. I don't know if she's watching or overhearing any of this, but I think this was maybe like, usually they even show up at like a Marshall's, TJ Maxx kind of stuff sometimes. You might be able to find it in a place like that too. But yeah, because I think they might sell on Puma's site, but they're probably pricey. And I wouldn't pay full price for Puma stuff either. So don't buy it at full price on Puma's site unless there's a Black Friday deal or something. Truck and Car Guy says, I don't remember any camera mirrors in any truck I ever drove. Okay, so maybe it's yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look into that for next time. Dorian says Beth should be a Bond villain. She looks way too innocent. Yep, she could be the unsuspecting Bond villain, femme fatale or whatever that ends up being one of those awesome like that. A bunch of them in the past they've done a pretty good job here in the past few years of working in some awesome ladies in the Bond movies there. And Truck and Car Guy says I had recall work on my 20-year-old Lancer. Interesting. That's crazy. Austin says, what would her Bond villain name be? I don't know. We'll have to ask her. Hopefully she'll come on to a live stream here soon again, and we'll do another one, the two of us together here sometime soon, because I know it's been a while. So we'll try and work that in here soon. And Truck and Car Guy says, yeah, have a good week, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I mirror the same thing. I echo that. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. And you're happy to see everyone had a good time here tonight. So, yeah, and stay tuned. I will be posting a new member schedule here next week for those of you who are members with all the stuff coming in December. I'm going to end the year strong. Got some fun stuff here coming. And, yeah, stay tuned for some EV reviews this week. Again, some stuff that I'm not going to pull punches. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be blunt. And I know a lot of you guys like that honest take, so stay tuned for that in those videos as well. But anyway, thank you all so much again. Have a great Thanksgiving. Safe travels, any of you who are traveling as well for Thanksgiving. I know know a lot of people hit the road or hit the planes, so definitely have some safe travels there as well. Hope it's easy, stress-free for everyone as much as possible. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching again, and take care. Have a great week.